Chapter 1701. Hearing this, Jiang Tian already knew that what Tai Sha had said before about Han Ming and the other Zongzi instigating and controlling the Big Dipper Demon clan to invade Earth and then appearing as the savior to kill the Big Dipper Demon clan was most likely true. I'm the leader of the Myth Alliance. All the cultivators in this planet region have to listen to me, including the cultivators from other planets. Jiang Tian smiled and said, if you don't listen to me, die. Hm. Then, Divine Lord Astral Fire almost burst out laughing. Kang Te Chu, do you think you're so great just because you're the top cultivator on Earth? You're too ignorant. Even after the recovery of Spirit Chi, the Earth realm was nothing more than a remote and desolate place. There were no decent powerhouses there. You're like a toad in the mud at the bottom of a well. You'll never know the vastness of the universe. Do you know that a nascent soul cultivator can only be the lord of a cultivation planet? And in the universe, who knows how many planets with life, cultivation planets, and stars in the Milky Way, were innumerable. You're just a nobody in the Beta planet region, not to mention the Milky Way. No one knows the universe better than I do. Jiang Tian didn't care about his mockery. He stepped forward and said, I've given you enough time to think about it. Why don't you give me Sky Scorpion? Aren't you afraid of death? Kang Te Chu, I wanted to remind you. Isn't it good to be alive? Why do you have to die? Divine Lord Astral Fire sneered. Suddenly, his smile disappeared and he said, kill him. He didn't do it himself. Because he didn't think it was necessary. In his opinion, even though Jiang Tian was fast, he was only a nascent soul cultivator. It would be embarrassing if he, a mid-stage soul formation cultivator, killed a nascent soul cultivator from a backward planet. It was Divine Lord Astral Sword. Divine Lord Astral Sword was also very fast. He was known as Silver Sword Lightning. At least in terms of speed, he was one of the top cultivators in the Beihan sect and the entire Mizar planet region. You're a talent. However, you shouldn't have offended the cultivators of the Freezing North sect. With a shout, the Divine Lord of Swords moved with his sword, becoming one with his sword. He turned into a streak of sword light, piercing towards Jiang Tian at an unbelievable speed. This sword light was completely composed of laws. It was incomparably sharp and fast to the extreme. Alas, Kang Te Chu was able to reach the core formation stage before the recovery of spiritual energy. In just 4 years, he reached the nascent soul stage. He was indeed a talent. It's a pity that he died just like that. Green Miasma God Lord revealed a look of regret and shook his head gently. Han Ming Zongzi had once expressed his admiration for Kang Te Chu and his desire to take him in as his subordinate was extremely strong. Today, I gave the order to kill Kang Te Chu, and I have to explain it to Zongzi when I get back. As for Astral Flame Divine Lord, he frowned slightly and shook his head gently. Divine Lord of Swords is a 7th grade soul formation realm cultivator. Even though he's only at the early stage of the soul formation realm, his combat power has already surpassed that of an ordinary peak stage soul formation realm cultivator. His silver sword is as fast as lightning. Once the laws of swords break the void, even a peak stage Divine Lord would be killed. However, this is a good thing for me. There's one more vengeful soul on the 10,000 souls flag and my Dharma power will increase a lot. As for Divine Lord Aiming, he had already thought of Jiang Tian's divine soul and smiled like a mother. All in all, the 3 divine lords who were watching by the side didn't believe that Jiang Tian could dodge the attack at all. How dare you show off in front of me with your sword principle? Jiang Tian smiled coldly and slammed his palm down. What? He's using his body to resist. Astral Flame Divine Lord was stunned and couldn't believe it. He's dead. The moment the mocking smiles appeared on the faces of Sir God Slyness and Sir God Green Miasma, they froze and could no longer laugh. The mocking smiles turned into deep fear. There was a loud bang. The sharp and invincible sword aura formed by Divine Lord Tajian was crushed by Jiang Tian's palm, as if it were made of tofu. The fragments of the laws of swords were shot in all directions. Broken bones flew everywhere, blood splashed and flesh rained down. How is that possible? A nascent soul cultivator killed a soul formation realm cultivator. And he did it with his body. How can he have such a terrifying body? Does he have a supergrade or even a sacred grade nascent soul? At this moment, Astral Flame and the other divine lords were dumbfounded. Normal nascent soul cultivators, no matter how powerful their cultivation arts were, how experienced they were or how strong they were, they could only defeat those at the same level. In other words, killing a level 9 nascent soul cultivator was the limit. It was impossible for them to kill a soul formation cultivator. Legend had it that only sacred grade nascent soul cultivators could defeat those at the same level and kill soul formation cultivators. That was because sacred grade nascent soul cultivators formed sacred grade laws, which were comparable to or even stronger than those controlled by soul formation grand cultivators. In fact, sacred grade nascent soul cultivators were extremely rare even in the Beidou planet region. Once they appeared, all the sects and families would treat them as soul formation cultivators and use all their resources to train them. According to statistics, only one sacred grade nascent soul cultivator, Han Ming, the sect master of the Beihan sect, had appeared in the past 100,000 years in the vast Mizang planet region, among countless sects and families. Han Ming didn't disappoint. He indeed became a sacred grade soul formation cultivator in a short time and had a chance to become a void-returning sacred cultivator in the future. The Beihan sect was able to dominate the Kaiyang planet region with Han Ming Zongzi as their trump card. The other 9 divine sects all followed his orders and didn't dare to disobey him. At this moment, Qing Lulu, who was standing in the distance with Xiao Xueqing, couldn't believe her eyes. Divine Lord Tatian had once killed demons on Earth. He had once slashed through 100,000-foot-tall mountain with a single strike. It could be said that his sword beam was chilling for 50,000 kilometers. In the eyes of Earth's cultivators, Divine Lord Tatian was like a god. He was high and mighty, untouchable and unshakable. But to their surprise, he couldn't even last a single round against Jiang Tian. Furthermore, Jiang Tian had done it too casually. All he did was slap him like he was swatting a fly. As for Divine Lord Tatian, he had fused with his sword. He had pushed the strength of his Dharma artifact and his body to their limits, but he was still no match. It's stable. If Senior Grand Primordium were to return to Earth, he would probably still be invincible. At that moment, Qing Lulu was instantly relieved. Ah! That's too terrifying. As for Princess Redjoy, who had rushed over, she screamed in fright when she saw this scene. She nearly peed her pants. She had already seen Jiang Tian kill Divine Lord Taisha. She had already overestimated Jiang Tian, but she never expected Jiang Tian's strength to be so terrifying. He could even kill a soul formation elder of the Beihan sect with a single strike. What sort of system is this? How can it be so powerful and tenacious? As for Elder Pan Sheng, Fairy Qin Shi, and Divine Sun Hanch, they were so frightened that their souls almost left their bodies. They could tell that Jiang Tian was able to break through the laws and destroy Yuan Qi with just his physical strength. It was unbelievable. You even dared to kill an elder of the Beihan sect. You will definitely die today. At that moment, Divine Lord Astral Fire finally reacted. He could not help but show his anger. With a shout, the 3 Divine Lords attacked Jiang Tian together. Chapter 1702. Astral Fire Divine Lord knew Hanming Zongzi's principles. When choosing puppets for the cultivators from those undeveloped planets, loyalty comes first, ability comes second. If a genius couldn't be used, he would destroy them immediately, so that they wouldn't become his stumbling block. The puppets were useless, but that wasn't scary. After all, they were only using their identities to govern the conquered territories. This task was easy to complete. If they couldn't suppress them, the Beihan sect could help them secretly. But if they weren't loyal enough, it would be troublesome if they got the resources, increased their power and rebelled against the Beihan sect. Jiang Tian, on the other hand, was too talented, too powerful, and too arrogant. He didn't take the Beihan sect seriously at all. Astral Fire Divine Lord thought from Hanming Zongzi's point of view. He would never let Jiang Tian live, he would kill him immediately. 100 Ghosts Parade, 10,000 Souls Devour Gods. Divine Lord Slinus's eyes were gloomy. He took out a pitch-black and deep flag with countless ghastly skulls painted on it and waved it in the air. Suddenly, a black aura surged towards Jiang Tian like waves crashing on the shore. There were countless ghosts in the black aura, but they weren't ordinary ghosts. They were in the form of smoke and soul energy, but in the form of crystals. It was the ghost law made with endless divine souls. It was condensed, sharp and fierce and specialized in countering soul energy and divine souls. It was extremely rare and terrifying. Terrifying! Cries of surprise rang out, trembling in the air. The law of ghosts was too powerful. Everyone was far away and their soul energy wasn't weak, but they felt as if their souls had fallen into it and they couldn't get out. Take my miasma law. The green miasma old woman laughed evilly. Her eyes were ferocious. Her dirty and wet cloak was shaking rapidly, making flapping noises. She suddenly pointed her finger in the air, and a flow of green miasma principle coiled towards Jiang Tian like a crystal python. Quick, fall back. Take out the Dharma artifacts given by the sect and create a shield. Hanch Shensi yelled. The miasma law was too terrifying. It was said that 1,000 years ago, the cultivators of a planet rebelled against the Beihan sect. Green Miasma Immortal Lord was ordered to quell the rebellion. She stood outside the atmosphere and pointed her finger, activating the law of miasma. In the blink of an eye, the vital energy layer of the planet with a radius of 500,000 miles was filled with green miasma. All living creatures, billions of lives, died, decayed, and rotted. Among them were thousands of nascent soul stage cultivators and even a few divine transformation stage cultivators. No one could escape. What was even more terrifying was that it was said that even after 1,000 years, that star was still surrounded by the laws of miasma, and it grew and multiplied without end. Not a single blade of grass grew on it, and there were no signs of life at all. Only piles of bones covered it, and it proved that life had once existed here. Astral flames incinerate the heavens, die for me. Finally, even Astral Fire Divine Lord attacked. He did not show any mercy, nor did he underestimate his enemy. It was still like a lion hunting a rabbit, and it had to use all its strength. The law of astral fire. One of them burned down from the top of Jiang Tian's head, like the sun's true fire. The other burned from the bottom of Jiang Tian's feet, like the hellfire or the 9 netherine fire. 3 divine sovereigns at the middle stage of the 6th stage divine transformation realm. Furthermore, the grade of the laws is definitely not low. So what if this Kang Te Chu has a sacred grade nascent soul? He is ultimately a nascent soul. He will still die, said Hanch Shensi with a certain look in his eyes. From his point of view, no matter how great one's talent was, they were ultimately limited by their cultivation levels. If they could easily kill enemies of a higher level, why would they pursue the advancement of their cultivation levels? They might as well pursue the grade of the golden core or nascent soul and remain stagnant. In fact, most cultivators placed their cultivation levels first. The grade of the golden core or nascent soul was second. Those like Jiang Tian, who took an unconventional path by repeatedly suppressing their cultivation levels and refusing to give up until they condensed a divine-grade golden core or nascent soul, were few and far between. That's great. This madman is finally going to die. Princess Redjoy was so excited that her face flushed red as she clenched her fists. She felt like she had been toyed with by Jiang Tian. She found Jiang Tian an eyesore and wished that Jiang Tian would immediately die. Elder Pan and Fairy Chen she naturally wished for Jiang Tian's death as well. The reason was simple. They were vassals of the North Frost sect. They had been slaves for too long and liked to think for their masters. Taoist Grand Primordium is in trouble. Among the other realm cultivators, only Yuan Jiankong revealed a look of worry. He felt vexed and disillusioned. Because looking at the situation of both sides, he also realized that Han Ming Zongzi, who was always upholding justice and always regarded himself as a righteous person, was actually a schemer with evil intentions. 3 divine lords, attacked together. Cheng Lulu's face turned as pale as a sheet. She urged her with a voice transmission. Matriarch, why aren't you helping? What are 3 mere soul formation cultivators? Back in the ruins of immortality, my husband killed more than 100 soul formation mighty figures. Zhao Xueqing chuckled. She was extremely confident in Jiang Tian as she sent a voice transmission. What? More than 100 soul formation mighty figures. He once killed more than 100 soul formation mighty figures. Cheng Lulu's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. She still hadn't recovered from the shock of killing more than 100 soul formation cultivators. Jiang Tian had already attacked. Ever since I condensed this suppressing hell devil godly soul, I really haven't eaten my fill. Jiang Tian heaved a sigh and pressed his forehead with the middle finger of his right hand. All of a sudden, the immortal will of the fiend god was unleashed. The terrifying immortal will of the fiend god had become solid, as if it were real. It opened its mouth and inhaled. All of a sudden, the ghost laws were sucked into the mouth of the demon god of hell, suppressing demon god's consciousness. The black flag in Divine Lord Iming's hand suddenly turned white and all the Dharma power on it had been swallowed. How is that possible? His immortal will is of the fiend element and it has such terrifying power. This time, Divine Lord Iming was extremely startled. He screamed and quickly retreated, as if his soul was about to leave his body. You want to run? Unfortunately, it's too late. Jiang Tian stepped in the air and compressed the space with a violent force. The curvature of the space was like a spring that had been pressed to the extreme, ejecting him. The speed brought by the pure physical strength was even faster than the power of the space laws of many people. Jiang Tian arrived in front of Divine Lord Iming in a blink and slapped him. The air within 10 miles became as thin as a piece of paper. All the Dharma treasures, Dharma artifacts and buildings floating in the air became flat. Arg! Divine Sovereign Eerie Nether was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. Amidst his shrill screams, his body, divine treasures, and divine body were instantly flattened and spread out to an area of 5 kilometers. It was completely flat, and it was thinner than a strand of hair. That was the terrifying power of the chaotic divine body. Even though Jiang Tian was only a nascent soul cultivator and only used his body without any Dharma power, it was as easy as pie for him to kill a 6th-grade soul formation cultivator. But in the eyes of the others, it was too shocking and terrifying. Immediately, there were exclamations at the scene. Everyone's eyes almost popped out and they were full of disbelief. At the same time, the Dharma laws of astral fire had changed their route and were chasing and burning crazily. It was like a falling star in the sky and a surging sea of fire under his feet. Ha! You're playing with fire in front of me. You're asking for trouble. Ha! Jiang Tian laughed and used his Dharma power for the first time. The Dharma laws of true fire of Suzaku. It turned into a flaming saber and slashed. Chapter 1703. Crack. The law of astral fire was shattered. It was like butter against a hot knife when faced with the law of true fire of Suzaku. Go to hell. After breaking the law of true fire, the Suzaku flaming blade didn't lose its momentum. It slashed towards astral fire Divine Lord. No. At this moment, Astral Fire Divine Lord knew that he was no match for Jiang Tian. In desperation, more than a dozen offensive and defensive Dao artifacts around him exploded. Violent and vast Dharma power rose to the sky like waves. Those Dao artifacts were made by artifact refining masters. Some of them were even made from planets. They were very precious and valuable. Of course, their power was also terrifying. Some of them had even reached the peak of Dao artifacts and were called quasi-divine weapons. They could withstand the attack of a peak soul formation realm cultivator. More than a dozen Dao artifacts exploded at the same time. How terrifying was that? Some were roaring like divine beasts, some were like stars in the sky, some were in the form of shields, some were like black tides. There were thousands of changes in an instant and their forms were different. Astral Fire Divine Lord was confident that even if he couldn't seriously injure Jiang Tian, he could at least make Jiang Tian panic and give himself a chance to escape. Yes, he had already started to run. Crack. Loud cracking sounds came from behind him. Astral Fire Divine Lord's Immortal will also saw the layers of offensive Dao artifacts and shields quickly shattering under the Suzaku flaming blade. They couldn't even last a second. Then, a burning sensation came. Astral Fire Divine Lord let out a roar full of unwillingness and desperation. His consciousness fell into eternal darkness and his divine soul was destroyed. Oh my God! Seeing this, Green Miasma Divine Lord was scared out of his wits. He turned around and ran without saying anything. 3 Divine Lords had died. Kang Taechu was completely suppressing them. Green Miasma Divine Lord was on par with the 3 cultivators, if not slightly weaker. If she didn't run, she would have a death wish. Her speed was not considered slow, but for some reason, her body was nailed in the air like a fly specimen in amber, unable to move at all. Oh my God! He's mastered the space law. It's comparable to a soul formation realm cultivator's realm. Green Miasma exclaimed in its heart, as if it had seen a demon. Space, time, and karma had always been the most difficult laws to control. Even soul formation and divine lords would find it difficult to come into contact with them. However, this brat had actually managed to control it while still in the nascent soul realm. It was like a 3-year-old child lifting a cauldron weighing 1,000 pounds. How could Green Miasma God Lord remain calm? Green Miasma Divine Sovereign's eyes were filled with despair when he saw Jiang Tian walk over lazily as though he was taking a leisurely stroll. Then, Jiang Tian raised his hand and slammed down with his palm. Jiang Tian was the only one who could do so. Clang! As Jiang Tian smashed Green Miasma Sir God into dust, the battle finally came to an end. However, the shock and fear brought about by the battle had only just begun to spread. Because everything had happened too quickly, the battle had already ended before the onlookers could form any thoughts or analyses in their minds. How is this possible? He killed 4 divine transformation realm mighty figures by himself. Hansh Shenxi's heart turned cold as a deep sense of fear welled up within him. In the Frost North sect, he was considered one of the most talented people. Apart from the few Zongzis, he was considered the best among all the Shenxis. The sect placed great importance on him and placed high hopes on him. His fellow disciples flattered him and he thought highly of himself. However, at that moment, he felt like trash compared to Jiang Tian. What bullshit genius was he? He could have crippled his cultivation and stopped cultivating. He even felt that even Hanming Zongzi, who had a sacred grade nascent soul, might not have Jiang Tian's present strength. When Hanming Zongzi had a sacred grade nascent soul and was at the peak of the 9th level, he had only managed to defeat an ordinary soul formation cultivator after 6 hours of arduous battle. However, Jiang Tian was only at the early stage nascent soul realm. Yet, he was able to insta-kill him in 1 strike. There was no need for him to strike a second time. Duh. Princess Redjoy was so frightened that her face turned pale. She felt as though her guts were being torn apart as her teeth chattered, producing a machine gun-like sound. At that moment, Jiang Tian was like a devil in her heart. He was extremely terrifying. Having repeatedly offended Jiang Tian along the way, she was afraid that Jiang Tian would hold a grudge against her. If Jiang Tian wanted to kill her, no one would be able to stop him. He did not even need to take action. All he needed was a thought or a glare. After all, Jiang Tian's psyche was just too terrifying. It was completely corporeal. Even Divine Lord Bizarro Nether's 10,000 ghost flag could not withstand it. Furthermore, Jiang Tian also seemed to have cultivated in ocular techniques. Jiang Tian had killed 4 Divine Lords in a row as though he was chopping vegetables. It was too shocking and terrifying that it left everyone stunned. Han Shensi even felt that even if Hanming Zongzi were to fight Jiang Tian, his chances of victory would be slim. Heavens! Middle Saturn was a planet that was abandoned during the era of the celestial grounds wanderings. The people left behind were all mortals. Their descendants had ordinary bloodlines and mediocre aptitudes. How did a heaven-defying figure like Kang Te-chu appear? Han Shensi couldn't help but cry in his mind. Jiang Tian didn't care about what the others thought. He looked at Divine Lord Scorpio and said, Hanming Zongzi was the one who instigated you to lead the monsters to invade Earth. That's right. Sir God Tian. Scorpio stood up and bowed deeply. With an apologetic face, he said, in the Big Dipper star region, the monster race and the human race were once equals. But later, the human race overtook us and attacked the monster race. We lost our home. We had no choice but to listen to Hanming Zongzi's sweet talk. Tell me where the Dharma artifact is. Jiang Tian said. Hanming Zongzi was very smart. He didn't invade Earth by force, but by peaceful evolution. He appeared as a savior and saved the civilization on Earth, which was in danger under the attack of the monsters. He had countless followers of the human race on Earth. If Jiang Tian were to fight with this person and take back control of the Myth Alliance, these followers would probably try to stop him. But most of them were fooled by Hanming Zongzi. They didn't do it for their own interests, but for the sake of protecting the civilization on Earth. Jiang Tian didn't have the heart to kill them. With the Dharma artifact, the truth would be revealed. Those people would certainly come to their senses and stand on Jiang Tian's side, so that they wouldn't have to kill their own kind. Of course, Jiang Tian wouldn't be polite to those who knew the inside story and were in cahoots with the so-called Righteous Alliance. All right. Divine Lord Scorpio heaved a sigh and told Chen Fan a location with his immortal will. Here it is. Jiang Tian's face changed slightly, then he nodded and said indifferently. Although you were bewitched and deceived by Hanming, Zongzi, and the others, you have also committed many crimes on Earth. You have committed too many crimes to be recorded. Your crimes are unforgivable. Kill yourself and I'll leave you with a whole body. After hearing that, everyone was shocked. Han Shensi also couldn't believe it. How bold of him to ask Divine Lord Scorpio, one of the 9 Divine Lords of the monsters, to kill himself. My friend, if you spare my life, I'll be your subordinate. I'm willing to serve you as my lord and be at your beck and call. I'll be loyal and devoted to you and never betray you. The Beihan sect, the Feiyang sect and the other divine sects are powerful. You need help. Emperor Scorpio seemed to be struggling. He wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he knelt on the ground and begged humbly and sincerely. His posture was extremely humble. No need. Jiang Tian shook his head. His expression was calm, without a trace of emotion. Could it be that fellow Taoist doubts my loyalty? I can sign a divine soul contract with you and be your servant forever. Divine Lord Scorpio panicked. His demonic eyes were filled with a deep desire to survive. I mean, there's no need. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Hanming Zongzi, a sacred soul formation cultivator. There are more than a dozen high-level soul formation cultivators in the 4 divine sects of the Righteous Alliance, right? They're invincible in your eyes, but they're just ants to me. So, I don't need your help. You can go now. Ah! Scorpio Divine Sovereign looked at the remains of the demon clan on the ground, the underground city of Lairs in flames, and the trembling and mournful faces of his descendants. His demonic eyes were filled with reluctance, anger, regret, unwillingness, sorrow, and many other emotions. Tears flowed down his cheeks as he slowly said, "Let's go." He said slowly, "Then, I'll follow your order and apologize with my life." Ancestral Patriarch. Ancestral Patriarch, you can't die. You're a peerless monster god. Our Ancestral Patriarch has lived for 10,000 years and reached the soul formation level for 3,000 years. How can he die like this? How can we face the ancestors of the Scorpio race? Ancestral Patriarch, we hope you can lead us to a place to live. Leader of the Taichu Alliance, our Ancestral Patriarch has admitted his mistakes. Please spare his life. We're willing to kill ourselves to atone for his crimes. Yes. We know you're a kind person. Please give us a chance. The cultivators of the Heavenly Scorpion clan all knelt down, kowtowing, pounding their chests and wailing. Divine Lord Scorpio was extremely talented. He had reached the Golden Core level at 100 years old and the Nascent Soul level at 120. He had once dominated the Star Ocean in the Beidou planet region and had never lost a battle. He had made a name for himself and was known as a peerless hero. Even Han Ming Zongzi could only use his wits to plot against him and did not dare to challenge him directly. But then, he had died and had to commit suicide to apologize. He had been used by Han Ming Zongzi, which was a great tragedy. How could his descendants not be in pain and cry? Jiang Tian looked cold and didn't say a word, giving Divine Lord Scorpio time to say goodbye to his descendants. Mercy? Mercy? Who would show mercy to the creatures on Earth who had died tragically? When they were bleeding and begging for mercy, the monsters were never merciful. Idiot! Don't cry. The Scorpio Emperor stood up shakily, as if he was no longer a peerless demon god, but a dying old man. He smiled with tears in his eyes and said with a kind smile, I was used by the ambitious Han Ming Zongzi to kill people. I wasn't wise. I've killed countless creatures on Earth. I'm heartless. I am so heartless and unwise that I am not worthy of the title of demon god. He sobbed. Remember this and pass the message to all the Beidou monsters. Don't disturb Earth again. If I have the chance, I'll kill those Big Dipper humans that harbor evil intentions and wash away your sins. I won't die in peace if I violate this. Do you understand? We'll remember what you said, Ancestral Patriarch. Countless monsters cried. Divine Lord Scorpio then bowed to Jiang Tian and said, I only hope that you can forgive the descendants of the Beidou monsters and leave us some descendants. They're not evil, just a group of pitiful creatures looking for a place to live. All the killings were ordered by the leaders of the monster race. They were just following orders. You're not qualified to negotiate with me. Jiang Tian said with a displeased expression as he flung his sleeves. Ah! Divine Lord Scorpio looked helpless and his eyes were full of longing. Divine Lord Scorpio didn't want to die. Cultivation wasn't easy. He had gone through a lot of hardships, survived thousands of battles, stepped on piles of bones and bodies, and stepped on pools of blood of his comrades to reach his current cultivation level and status. He had become the Divine Lord of the monster race respected by billions of monsters. He didn't want to die. He still had a wife and children, relatives and comrades. He longed for the warmth of the mortal world and didn't want to give up family and friendship. He didn't want to die. Han Ming Zongzi had schemed against him too badly. Not only had he suffered heavy losses on Earth, but even the ancestral land of the Beidou Star region had been taken away by Han Ming Zongzi. He wanted to live. He wanted to take revenge and wash away his shame. But at this moment, he had no other choice. If he resisted, Jiang Tian would be able to slap him to death with a single palm strike, and it wouldn't change the outcome. Instead, it would incur Jiang Tian's wrath, and he would start a massacre on his descendants, and what awaited him would be the annihilation of his clan. But since Jiang Tian was so powerful, he believed that Jiang Tian could easily kill Han Ming Zongzi. Then, it would be considered as revenge for the monsters who died unjustly. He even thought that Jiang Tian would be able to conquer the Beidou Star region and dominate the entire Milky Way when he reached the Soul Formation realm. As for Jiang Tian, it could be seen from the Myth Alliance that he was in favor of equal coexistence between the human race and the monster race. When the time came, he would unite the Beidou Star region and give them a way out. This old man congratulates Cultivator Tai Chu on killing Han Ming Zongzi and conquering the human race of the Beidou Star region. Avenge the creatures on Earth and return to the position of the leader of the Myth Alliance. Thinking of this, Divine Lord Scorpio's face showed endless determination and a hint of relief. He heaved a sigh and sat down in the lotus position, chanting the demon detoxification curse. Suddenly, an endless rain of light soared into the sky. It was a riot of colors. A natural and gentle power rushed out in all directions. The great Tao resonated, and heaven and earth resonated with each other. Divine Lord Scorpio had chosen to die by Tao assimilation. The so-called Tao assimilation meant turning all the essence Qi, soul energy, and Tao he had cultivated in his life into natural energy and returning it to the world. The Buddhists called it sitting, passing away and nirvana, while the Taoists called it immortalization. It was a decent way to die. However, he had turned the power he brought from the Beta star region to Mars. It was as if he had moved a large amount of spirit Qi from the world there. The spirit Qi produced by a soul formation cultivator was as deep as the ocean. Immediately, the entire Mars had a bit more vitality. That was a form of compensation and forgiveness to some extent. A peerless Fey god has chosen to die by Tao assimilation under the coercion of Kang Te-Chu. While the monsters were crying and Hanch Divine Prince and the other cultivators of the Mizang planet region were frightened. Suddenly, Jiang Tian turned his head and stared at them with a pair of cold and emotionless eyes, saying, "How will you make up for your sins?" Chapter 1704. Everyone trembled in fright when Jiang Tian swept his gaze across them like a cold bolt of lightning. They fell silent out of fear. Fairy Chen Shi's face turned pale as she hesitated to speak. Hanch Shenxi's eyes were flustered as he organized his words, hoping to beg for mercy. As for Elder Pan Sheng, his legs had already turned to jelly as he knelt to the ground. Only Princess Redjoy grunted delicately and said, "Senior, we are only following orders. Besides, we have not killed a single human from Earth from beginning to end. What crime have we committed?" "Bitch, shut up." Upon seeing this scene, Hanch Shenxi immediately cursed inwardly. He suddenly raised his hand and slapped Princess Redjoy in the face. "What a foolish woman. If you want to die, don't drag us down with you." Kang Te-Chu's cultivation level was exceedingly high and his strength was unparalleled. Even the 4 Northern Frost Elders had been killed as easily as slicing vegetables. Even the mighty Divine Lord Scorpio had been forced to commit suicide to atone for his crimes. What sort of might was this? It was enough to be on par with Hanming Zongzi. Ignoring the fact that the Boundless Sect disciples were strictly considered the periphery of the Northern Frost Sect, they were considered Hanming Zongzi's henchmen. It was only right for him to kill them. Even if he was unreasonable and used his powerful cultivation level to oppress others and kill them, what could they do? Could they resist? In an interstellar war between civilizations, morality was not worth mentioning. Pa! The slap split Princess Redjoy's face as she flew more than 10 meters away and slammed into a dilapidated wall. Her body was covered in dirt and her hair was disheveled. She was in a wretched state. She no longer had the noble bearing of a princess daughter. Instead, she looked like a chicken. Princess Redjoy never expected that Hanch Shenxi, who had been having fun with her on the airship, would suddenly turn hostile and slap her. She could not help but feel angry and fearful. However, fear ultimately prevailed as she stood up in a wretched state, not daring to say a word. "Haven't you killed a Fae from Earth?" Jiang Tian asked coldly. This. Princess Redjoy was at a loss for words. She had indeed killed a Fae from Earth. This was because Hanming Zongzi had arrived after the 9 demon clan godly lords had led the demons to invade Earth. First, he sent the marine race from Earth's Bermuda Triangle to act as the vanguard to fight against the Big Dipper demon clan. In particular, he had the Sea King lead his subordinates to attack Mars. All of them were killed and exhausted. Then, he raised the call to wipe out all the demons on Earth, causing the 2 major forces of the Earth's mythological alliance, the human race, and the demon race to be suspicious of each other. They were divided and hated each other. In the end, internal strife broke out. As for the Boundless Sect, they were also under orders to help the humans on Earth kill the moon-worshipping wolf race and other demons. The number of demons from Earth that had died at Princess Rejoy's hands numbered in the hundreds. Those who have killed humans, demons, and all living creatures on Earth, come out. Don't wait for me to search your soul. Jiang Tian's voice suddenly turned cold. Senior Tai Chu, spare my life. The dozens of cultivators, including Princess Red Joy and Elder Pan Sheng, turned pale from fright. They did not dare resist, nor did they have the courage to escape. All they could do was walk out while trembling. Die. Without another word, Jiang Tian slapped down with his palm without any mercy. Bang! The pure strength of his physical body was terrifying beyond measure. The chaos divine body, even at the initial success stage, was still very domineering. The space within a half-kilometer radius was squashed into pieces of paper. In the sky, it was as though an extremely thin but beautiful blood-colored membrane had appeared. None of the cultivators escaped. All of them perished. Before Princess Red Joy died, her beautiful eyes were still wide open. Her pretty face was filled with horror, shock, and indignation. It was as though she could not believe that she had died under the hands of an earthling cultivator. Beside her, Hench Shenxi, Yuan Jiankong, Fairy Qin Shi, and the other cultivators were splattered with blood. They were so frightened that their bodies were trembling like sieves. They felt a lingering fear and joy. They were glad that they had been ordered to wage war against the Big Dipper Fae. They had not participated in the pursuit of the demons on Earth or the suppression of the humans on Earth. They knew that even though Jiang Tian had once teamed up with them, they were not on the same level as Jiang Tian. It was like mortals facing gods. Why would gods care about the lives of mortals? Furthermore, when it came to matters of right and wrong, like Yuan Jiankong, even if he had some friendship with Jiang Tian would not show him any mercy. You have two paths to choose. 1. Form a divine soul contract with me. When the time is right, wage war against the Big Dipper cultivators led by Hanming Zongzi. Stand by my side and become my slaves. Then, I will spare your lives. 2. Wage war against me now and die. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold. He was like a high and mighty god as he looked down at the cultivators of the Wintry North sect. Yes. We are willing to renounce the darkness and join the light. We will follow Alliance Lord Tai Chu. We will not hesitate to sacrifice our lives for him. Hanming Zongzi has evil intentions and is despicable. We are ashamed to be on the same side as him. He seems to be a righteous man, but in fact, he is greedy and ugly. He has stirred up a storm of blood and has no regard for human lives. He has committed heinous crimes and deserves to be cut into pieces. Everyone has the right to kill him. As soon as Jiang Tian spoke these words, everyone seemed as if they'd been granted amnesty, and they didn't hesitate in the slightest to kneel down successively and speak silently like cicadas in winter. Some of them even cursed Hanming Zongzi as if he had killed their father. The cultivators of the Wintry North sect were not as strong as those of the Empire of the Ruins of Immortality. After all, the Mazang planet region was a large cultivation planet and there was no unified dynasty. Instead, the top 10 divine sects were side by side. Cultivators only cared about their own lives and the improvement of their strength and status. Although the Empire of the Ruins of Immortality was much weaker than the Mazang planet region, all the cultivators and mortals were thinking about the survival of their civilization in the face of a world-ending disaster. They were united and ready to die, so they could unleash their greatest potential. Their battle awareness was also the strongest. Jiang Tian didn't want to talk to them. He pressed his forehead with his right middle finger and the golden lake rippled. The immortal will of the fiend god of prison burst out and quickly merged with their blood, forming a divine soul contract. After doing all this, Jiang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. He looked calm, but a glint of viciousness flashed in his eyes. I wonder what's going on Earth right now. We should go back and have a look. Mars used to be a base built by Zhao Xueqing to defend against Tianmu's divine general. But when the Beidou monsters arrived, it was the first place to bear the brunt. The cultivators on Earth and the Beta monsters fought there, turning it into an extraterrestrial battlefield. After that, the cultivation world on Earth was defeated and the Beta monsters used it as a base to attack Earth. But after Hanming Zongzi and the Alliance of Justice arrived, not only did they wipe out the Beta monsters on Earth, but also the monsters on Mars. This place was already in ruins. In fact, Jiang Tian's real enemy wasn't the Beta monsters at all. It was the Alliance of Justice that took root on Earth as a savior and gradually grew stronger, worshipped and supported by Earth's civilization. Yeah. We've been delayed for too long. Honey, let's go back. I wonder how Tianqing School is doing now. Zhao Xueqing also revealed a worried expression and seemed to be impatient. Well, let's go back to Earth. Jiang Tian rolled up his sleeves and disappeared with Zhao Xueqing, the black-haired dog and Cheng Lulu. Only Hansh Shenxi, Chen Shiferi and Yuan Jiankong were left, looking at each other in silence. I'm afraid Hanming Zongzi is in big trouble this time. Yeah, this Taichu Divine Lord is very powerful and his Dharma power is powerful. He's ruthless and resolute. He's definitely not someone easy to deal with. Many cultivators shook their heads and smiled wryly. Hansh Shenxi's face was extremely pale, as if he was suffering from constipation. Let's just say that Divine Emperor Scorpio self-detonated at the critical moment and perished together with the 5 Divine Emperors, including Astral Fire and Green Mist. What if he asks me to take out the Dharma artifact to see the battle images or search my divine soul? That would be a disaster. Okay. He really didn't know how to report to Hanming Zongzi about hunting down Divine Lord Tian Scorpion. Hanming Zongzi was naturally suspicious and cunning like a ghost and a fox. He was not so easy to fool. At this moment, Hansh Shenxi wanted to scratch his head and come up with a foolproof plan. At that moment, Fairy Chen Shi mustered her courage and said softly, Shenxi, a gentleman doesn't stand under a collapsing wall and a fine bird chooses a good tree to perch on. In my opinion, this leader of the Taichu Alliance has great power, great ambition, and great ambition. I'm afraid he'll be as successful as Hanming Shenxi in the future and control more than 1 or 2 planet regions. The fruit of the great path is found in danger. The point is, Hanming Zongzi isn't a good person. Yuan Jiankong looked resentful, as if his idol had collapsed. In the cultivation realm, there were too many cultivators who were smart enough to defeat demons. Hanming Zongzi was a typical example. Usually, he seemed to be detached from the world, calm and collected, like a bodhisattva or a Buddha, an immortal or a divine being. He said things like, fighting for justice, for the vicissitudes of life, and protecting the weak civilizations. But in fact, he was the one behind the interstellar war. He was just doing it for his own benefit, to expand his territory and to fight for cultivation resources. I understand. Hansh Shenxi's eyes glittered. That was the wisdom brought by 1,000 years of life experience. All of a sudden, a resolute look flashed across his face. He gritted his teeth, waved his hand, and said coldly, send a message to Hanming Zongzi. Tell him that Sir God Tian Scorpion self-detonated and perished together with Ganghua and the other Sir Gods. We'll go to Earth and follow the Taichu Alliance Master. A few hours later. The unsetting sun was like a meteorite shooting into the sky, tearing through the thin atmosphere of Mars and rushing out of the sky. Then, it entered the deep starry sky and the vast sea of stars. Its target was Earth. Chapter 1705. The distance between Mars and Earth was only 100 million kilometers. With Jiang Tian's current cultivation, he would be able to fly over in less than a day with the Kunpeng's speed. However, it would also consume a lot of his true essence. But with the rising sun, he was able to avoid this trouble. The crystal reactor was running at full speed, shooting out a straight space flame, compressing the space and forming a space curvature. The curvature stabilized and pushed the Dharma artifact forward. Its speed had reached the level of sublight speed, which was comparable to the speed of Jiang Tian's Kunpeng. When 1/3 of the journey was completed, a vast planet with life appeared in front of Jiang Tian. At this time, the mountains on Earth were clearly visible to the naked eye. If you compared it with a globe, you wouldn't believe that the blue planet in front of you was the Earth you knew. It was more than 10 times the size of the original. Other than the increase in the size of the 5 continents, on top of the original ocean, new continents were born. There was a vast expanse of greenery, which made the vegetation look extremely vigorous. Lakes were scattered everywhere and mountains were like dragons. Any one of them was higher than the Andes. Ah, what a cultivation paradise! Jiang Tian let out a long sigh, his eyes filled with deep emotions. In his previous life, he had traveled the star ocean and fought in the universe. He had seen countless bright planets, cultivated planets, and even went to the deity realm and the divine realm. However, he still missed Earth the most. Because that was where his family was buried. In this life, he had lived 2 lives and his parents and family were all on Earth. He had also planted the foundation for Earth and sacrificed a lot of blood and sweat, which made his feelings for Earth even stronger. By then, he was already a nascent soul cultivator and had formed the supreme 9-orifice chaotic divine body. He was like the Son of God and had the power of a soul formation cultivator. Even in the central galaxy, he could be considered a powerful figure. Homesick. But at this moment, his mood was still the same as that of a traveler returning home. When he left, the spirit chi on Earth had just begun to recover. For years later, Earth had already become a spirit chi planet. Furthermore, he had experienced the invasion of the Heavenly Shepherd Divine General, the invasion of the Big Dipper Demon Clan, and the descent of the Righteous Alliance. In the past 4 years, the evolution process of a normal star might have been condensed for hundreds or even thousands of years. It was bound to bring about a great impact, fusion, and fission to the civilization on Earth. What a wonderful world! This beautiful world is worth protecting and fighting for our entire lives. Zhao Xueqing's pretty face was slightly moved, and she couldn't help but ask. In her eyes, the azure stars slowly rotated in the universe like a brilliant sapphire. The spirit chi of this star was surging, and the essence chi was like a dragon. Endless Tao laws and precepts rumbled on it, making it seem like the rules were like a piece of metal, and the essence chi was incomparably condensed. There were also dragons of essence chi roaring in the sky of the Earth, thousands of miles away. The spirit chi on Earth was increasing almost all the time. In just 4 years, the spirit chi on Earth was already 3 times that of the ruins of deity, almost catching up with some famous cultivation planets in the central galaxy. Indeed. Jiang Tian had chosen a difficult path, but she thought it was all worth it. The civilization on Earth had entered a new stage. In the next 1,000 or 10,000 years, it would develop rapidly and rise rapidly, eventually standing among the stars in the universe. Is that a transformed moon? No, it's not even worth a moon. When the indestructible ship was 10 million kilometers away from Earth, the big black dog, who was squatting on the sofa in the cockpit, exclaimed and stared at the Earth in front of him with his mouth wide open. With the naked eye, he could already see that there were 3 more satellites around Earth, as if there were 3 moons. That's not the moon. Cheng Lulu, who had fully recovered and changed into a suit of crystal armor, said softly with a complicated expression on her sweet face. It wasn't that she wasn't seriously injured, but that Jiang Tian's healing methods were too powerful. He let her take some pills first and cast a few spells to recover. What's that? The big black dog was confused. The moon has fallen in the 3rd year of the spirit chi recovery. These 4 satellites are the space cities of the Beihan sect, the exiled deity hall, the Feiyang sect and the Wuji sect. Cheng Lulu said coldly with a glint of viciousness in her eyes. In fact, when she first heard from Divine Lord Tai Sha that the disasters on Earth in the past 2 years were all controlled by Han Ming Zongzi, Cheng Lulu felt extremely depressed. She couldn't believe it at all, or rather, she didn't want to believe it. That was because Han Ming Zongzi had hidden himself too well. He showed up as a savior and killed the nascent soul cultivators of the monster race, who made Earth tremble like a fiend god. When the Alliance of Justice and Order and the Earth's mythological alliance held a ceremony to jointly conquer the demon clan, Chen Lulu had seen him from afar during the ceremony. Han Ming Zongzi had black hair, black clothes, and black eyes. His skin was shiny and there was an air of nobility around him. He was surrounded by many big shots, like a moon surrounded by stars. As soon as he appeared, the light of the younger generation, and even the light of all the cultivators on Earth, seemed to be overshadowed by this person's light. Reclusive royalty immediately paled in comparison to the handsome young man like Ying Su. He was like a grain of rice that couldn't compete with the sun and the moon. It was like a mortal facing a heavenly god. In fact, she wasn't imagining things. As the descendant of the first emperor, Ying Su did have the aura of an emperor, but after all, he was only an emperor in the mortal world. How could he compare with the Zongzi of the divine clan who controlled a planet? There were more than 1,000 mortal kingdoms under Han Ming's command that were loyal to the Beihan sect. When those emperors of the mortal world saw him, they would all prostrate themselves in worship, just like how believers would prostrate themselves in front of a living being. It wasn't an exaggeration at all. That was the difference between mortals and immortals. That was the difference between humans and gods. In Chen Lulu's mind, Han Ming was a great hero who could be compared with Jiang Tian. But she never expected that Han Ming, whom she worshipped as her idol and was regarded as the savior of the human race on Earth, turned out to be an ambitious schemer. He turned out to be the culprit who controlled the interstellar war and caused the deaths and injuries of millions of mortal cultivators on Earth. Looks like I can only have Tai Chu as my idol in the future. The others are all rotten flowers. Chen Lulu reminded herself. This space city is so scary. The Blackie was shocked and its eyes widened. The spirit chi on Earth had recovered and the laws were strong. It was easy to understand why it could capture the moon into the gravitational field. However, the size of this space city was too terrifying. According to the calculation of the unsetting sun, its diameter should be 10,000 miles, which was much bigger than the original moon. I'm afraid that the Beihan sect's artifact-making skills are much better than those of the ruins of deity. Zhao Xueqing's pretty face revealed a hint of worry. Yes. Jiang Tian looked calm and didn't seem surprised at all. He said with a half-smile, but Han Ming Zongzi is a master of disguise. He is so pretentious. Yes. Zhao Xueqing said coldly, I admire the noble. I respect the ordinary. I understand cowardice. I can even understand aggression. But I can't accept hypocrisy. He is obviously despicable, shameless, and shameless, but he is wearing a noble appearance. He treats the Earth civilization as monkeys and caterpillars to play with. Looking at the humans on Earth who were slaughtered and harmed by him, they treat him as a guest, believe in him as a Buddha, and respect him as a sacred being. He must be laughing proudly. Han Ming Zongzi and the others certainly had the ability to occupy Earth. After all, there was not a single soul formation cultivator on Earth today. With their strength, if they wanted to forcibly occupy Earth, it would be as easy as snapping their fingers. However, he didn't. After cleaning up the demon race on Earth, he pretended to lead his people out and built a space city outside Earth to show his friendliness and selflessness. But in fact, on Earth, he had already established his orthodoxy and the top cultivators would become his spokespeople. Chapter 1706. That's true. Chen Lulu was prejudiced by first impressions. She didn't understand the operation of the Big Dipper cultivators, but after Jiang Tian's reminder, she had completely seen through the layout of Han Ming Zongzi and the others. In the beginning, some powerful orthodoxies rose on Earth, such as the Boundless Dojo, the Snow God Temple, and the Desolation Temple. They were all comparable to Tianqing School. The cultivators here are all human cultivators from Earth. However, their arcane effort paths are very similar to the Boundless Sect, the Heavenly Snow Hall, the Wasteland Sect, and so on from the Big Dipper. And behind them all stands Godson Han Ming. When I left Earth, the Boundless Dojo, the Snow God's Palace, the Desolation Worship Temple. These newly rising Earth cultivation orthodoxies propose to hold a grand competition with the Tianqing sect and other orthodoxies every year. Through this competition, the right to speak in the Myth Alliance would be decided. Competition? Ha, I'm afraid they want to kill. Jiang Tian's face was slightly cold. His eyes narrowed and flashed with a cold light. He sneered, if the Big Dipper cultivators directly went to fight, it would immediately cause xenophobia. But it's completely different if they use puppets as agents. Everyone will think it's an internal struggle on Earth. If these new orthodoxies on Earth beat the Tianqing school, many mortals who don't know the truth will also support them. After all, in their eyes, they are all cultivators on Earth. It's the same who's in charge. The puppets will immediately take control of the Myth Alliance. At that time, the so-called Myth Alliance will forget their oath, the purpose, and rules of the establishment, and completely become a dog of the Big Dipper starfield. This Han Ming Zongzi is really scheming and shrewd. Thinking about it, Cheng Lulu suddenly felt a chill in her heart and shivered. It's useless. I'll break it with one punch. Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully. Senior, you're so domineering. Cheng Lulu stuck out her tongue and looked at Jiang Tian with admiration. When Jiang Tian's unsetting sun was about to enter the gravitational field of Earth. Visually, the 4 space cities appeared even more vast, as if they were artificial stars. Not to mention a person, even if the rising sun city, which was hundreds of miles long, approached, it would be like a grain of rice falling on Mount Tai, not conspicuous at all. Not to mention a person. This is the space city of the Big Dipper system. The huge patterns on the space city were like rivers, filling her vision. Cheng Lulu felt as small as an ant. She was nervous and suffocating, as if her phobia of gigantism had broken out. At this time, Cheng Lulu also noticed that in addition to the space city, there were many large and small space fortresses floating under the night sky. They were densely packed, like the sand of the Ganges River. The space fortresses released powerful mana waves, like a giant net, enveloping the entire Earth. At this moment, a magnificent crystal warship broke away from a space fortress that was 1,000 square kilometers in size and dashed over to intercept them as fast as lightning. Stop! Qi Yan, an inner disciple of the Beihan clan, was here. This realm is under the protection of the wintry North sect in the Mizar star zone. No one is allowed to enter without permission. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. Powerful divine sense waves came from the crystal warship. It was a nascent soul cultivator. He spoke the language of Earth 3 times and repeated it again in the language of the Big Dipper. Senior, please allow me to report. I am Cheng Lulu, a cultivator from Earth, a member of the Myth Alliance and a warrior of the Guardians of Hua Xia. I was captured by the demon race, but luckily escaped and returned with a ship. This is the relevant emblem. Please don't worry. Cheng Lulu stepped out of the void. She first cupped her hands in front of her chest and then took out the relevant emblem to display. Enter the space fortress and accept the inspection. Qi Yan, the nascent soul cultivator, said with a serious expression, in addition, everyone who passes the test will have to pay 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones as the clearance fee. Clearance fee? Zhao Xueqing was surprised. Sect master, mistress. Cheng Lulu's expression didn't change. She quickly said with her divine sense, this is a kind of crystal currency that became popular after you left. It is a hard currency and has a strong purchasing power. 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones are enough to buy the area of a county. It is true that the human cultivators of the Big Dipper fight for Earth. But they don't fight for nothing. Every time they carry out an operation, they have to take a lot of crystals from Earth as a reward. The Myth Alliance and the governments of various countries can't do anything about it. They even show an understanding attitude. After all, before the troops and horses move, the food comes first. Space battles do require a lot of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Pills, warships, magical artifacts, and so on. It is said that in just 1 year, half of the crystals on Earth have fallen into the hands of the Big Dipper cultivators. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. His eyes flashed again, and he said coldly, provoking a war and making money from it. This Han Ming Zongzi is indeed a good person. With these crystals, it is too easy for the puppet forces of Earth to expand their territory. What a rebellion! Do they really think that Earth is their own backyard? They want to pluck the feathers of the goose that crosses the road? Zhao Xueqing's face turned cold. She was about to kill someone. Forget it. Jiang Tian patted her little hand, telling her not to act rashly. Zhao Xueqing had to suppress her anger and nodded. These cultivators who blocked the way were annoying, and Han Ming Zongzi had to be killed. In order to fight foreign aggression, one must first settle the internal affairs. Jiang Tian had to return to Earth to deal with the Tianqing school and gather the scattered forces. Otherwise, once the war started, they would be unable to attend to one thing and lose sight of the other. They would be held back repeatedly and would have to hold back from taking action. At this time, there was another violent fluctuation of space. A crystal warship with the symbol of the Northern Frost sect arrived quickly. It's Han Che's warship. Let's welcome him. Whoosh! 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 Several nascent soul cultivators immediately walked out of the intercepting warships. The leading cultivator in yellow looked respectful and panicked. He used the essence Qi to form a voice in the vacuum and said loudly, I am Qi Lian, an inner sect disciple of the Northern Frost sect. I lead the guards to greet Han Che. This is my friend. Let her through. Han Shenxi's attitude was very arrogant, and his cold voice was heard. Stop blabbering, do you want to die? Yes. Let her through. Qi Lian's face turned pale. Although the temperature in the vacuum of space was extremely low, as if he was in an ice cellar, he still broke out in cold sweat. Whoosh! With Qi Lian's order, all the restrictions were activated and a passage was formed. Thank you, Han Che. Cheng Lulu cupped her fists. You're welcome. Have a safe trip, everyone. I'll be going to Earth soon. See you again if fate allows. Although Han Shenxi pretended to be calm, he was actually terrified to the extreme. She's Kang Teichu's disciple, but she's bowing to me. She's so scary. Under Han Che's complicated gaze, Cheng Tian entered the never-setting sun. Then, the warship passed through the restriction passage, crossed the atmosphere and landed on Earth. My immortal will and Dharma power seem to be shrinking and weakening. After entering the essence Qi layer of Earth, Zhao Xueqing's face suddenly changed and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 1707. I feel like I'm losing my power. Cheng Lulu exclaimed. Her face turned pale, and she panicked. She had been held captive for a year, and she didn't feel this way on Earth. Therefore, it was very strange and unexpected. Yes. I feel the same. The big black dog also looked frightened and cried out. It seems that the gravity field around me is also increasing, and the air pressure is also increasing. It's like a huge rock is pressing down on me, making me unable to release my terrible power. It makes me, who can shock the world and make ghosts and gods cry, become ordinary and ordinary. Lulu, your feeling of losing power is wrong. It's just that you can't use your magical power, and the range is reduced. And Qing'er and the big black dog feel closer to the truth. Jiang Tian's eyes were deep, containing the wisdom of 10,000 years of cultivation in his previous life. But it's not the truth. This is the strengthening of the law. Finally, he showed a touch of joy and said with emotion. In short, as the spirit Qi on Earth recovers for more and more time, its law has become stronger. It seems that the defense of Earth has become stronger. In fact, when we entered the ruins of immortality, we also had this feeling, but it was not so obvious. I also feel that the range of my divine sense, magical power, and magical power is only 1/10 of the original, or even lower. At this time, the rising sun had turned off the crystal reactor. Without accelerating, it landed on Earth by its own weight. But the gravity was too strong, and the falling speed was too fast, like a meteor hitting Earth. Zhao Xueqing quickly turned on the crystal reactor and adjusted the reverse speed to slow down the falling speed. However, everyone still felt as if there was a huge boulder weighing 1,000 kilograms pressing down on them with every move they made. Don't panic. Jiang Tian used to be able to summon the primordial qi within 1,000 miles, but at this time, he could only mobilize the primordial qi within 100 miles, and it was still decreasing to dozens of miles. But this doesn't mean that our power has weakened. Our power hasn't changed at all. It's just that the power of heaven and earth has become stronger, and the primordial qi law has become stronger. As long as we are in this world, we will be suppressed by this law. There is no exception. The place where we landed should be the original Bohai Bay. Jiang Tian scanned the terrain of the mountains and rivers below and came to a conclusion. At this time, the land of Huaxia was already 10 times or even dozens of times larger than before. The Taihang Mountains, the Debi Mountains, the Yan Mountains, all of them had towering peaks, just like the original Himalayas. In fact, they were even taller and more majestic. Moreover, there used to be a vast plain between the Taihang Mountains and the Debi Mountains. But now, there were a few mountains that were as huge as dragons. After the recovery of spirit qi, the mountains and topography of Earth had undergone earth-shaking changes. 30,000 meters, 50,000 meters, 30,000 meters, the rising sun was getting closer and closer to the ground. This was a sea. The rising sun ship ejected a long space flame and slowly stabilized its landing. After that, Jiang Tian led everyone out of the cabin. Using the art of all creation, they shrank and put away the ship. Stepping on a flying sword, they rushed towards the continent, leaving a long white trail on the water surface. Roar! A weird-shaped fish, at least 100 meters long, with dense scales like a real dragon. Its huge fins were like layers of rolling clouds. It suddenly roared, opened its huge mouth like the abyss of hell, and bit towards Jiang Tian and the others. What a big fish, so scary. But it's delicious. Bang! The big black dog laughed strangely and jumped out. It shook its body and turned into a purple gold dragon. It opened its bloody mouth and directly swallowed the strange fish. However, Jiang Tian's face was slightly awe-inspiring. A mere demonic beast actually had the strength of a gold core. If it was in the ruins of immortality, its attack would be enough to set off monstrous waves within 100 miles. However, after the recovery of spirit qi on Earth, it only caused a fluctuation within a range of 10 miles. This was still the reason why the Great Tao laws were strengthened because of the recovery of spirit qi on Earth. At this time, Jiang Tian's heart was heavy. Before the recovery of spirit qi, gold core cultivators were invincible existences in the world. At that time on Earth, only Yu Wendon of the Pre-Qin dynasty and the 9 elders of Hongmeng had reached the gold core realm. But now, a fish monster and a tiger both had the strength of a gold core realm cultivator. He didn't know if humans could face such a challenge. Let's go back to the Huaxia Guardians Alliance first. I have to send Lulu back. Jiang Tian's expression was complicated. Finally, he made a decision. In fact, the Real foundation of Tianqing School was Sidoni. His grandfather, parents, sister Ziwei, Huang Linger's many comrades and disciples were all there. However, Jiang Tian always remembered that he was a descendant of Yan Huang. He was more concerned about the situation of Huaxia's cultivation world. He didn't know if the Huaxia Guardians Alliance was running smoothly and if it still maintained its independence. After flying for a while, they finally arrived in Huaxia. What a sight! The mountains were majestic. Ancient trees covered the sky and the sun. Old vines covered the earth. Clouds and mist lingered between the mountain peaks. A black goshawk with a wingspan of 100 meters. Its feathers flickered with cold light, and its claws were like peerless heavenly hooks. It was majestic and awe-inspiring. It swooped into the forest. When it rose again, a giant python about 100 meters long was struggling between its claws. The mountains were either lofty and steep, imposing, or protruding and towering. Silver waterfalls fell from the mountain peaks like waterfalls. It was a vast expanse of white and incomparably magnificent. Between the cliffs, all kinds of spirit herbs and orchids climbed and swayed. Longevity apes climbed the holy mountain. Cranes soared among the white clouds. Colorful deers leaped with lingji in their mouths. There were also many rare birds and strange beasts that couldn't be named. Cheilants, giant apes, and other rare demon beasts could be seen everywhere at this time. This was a vast, mysterious, and primitive scene. Everyone seemed to have stepped into a wild world. As they went deeper into the hinterland, they could gradually see cities and towns. Some cities and towns had already been cruelly destroyed in the demon race's invasion. Between the dilapidated walls, there were few traces of people. Weeds grew everywhere. It was incomparably desolate. Wild beasts roamed and wreaked havoc. Those wild dogs' eyes flickered with green light. They were extraordinarily ferocious and were even taller than calves. But even more majestic cities rose from the ground. The high-rise buildings were incomparably thick and heavy. They were easily 1,000 meters tall. Runes flickered and suffused with resplendent light. The mana fluctuations were intense, like celestial palaces. Moreover, there were troops stationed there. They pulled out long lines of defense, and all kinds of fortresses were everywhere. And Jiang Tian had already noticed that those ordinary soldiers were often at least at the body refinement and chi refinement stage. Their bodies were robust and their auras surged. They could leap as if they were flying and their strength was as great as a mountain. There were also many high-level cultivators who rode on swords and flew through the air, patrolling everywhere. They had actually reached the foundation establishment stage. This city, if I remember correctly, should be called Cape City. It was originally only a small city, but there are at least 100 foundation establishment cultivators overseeing it. Hua Xia, it's safe. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, his heart greatly at ease. He had seen it more than once. In one city after another, there were people who couldn't wait for the bus. They jumped up, like scallions on dry land, and jumped onto the double-decker buses that were a few meters high. In some parks, old men wearing silk training clothes practiced Tai Chi. Sometimes they were like old apes circling trees, sometimes they were like red-crowned cranes dancing in the sky. Their movements were round and natural, and they had actually reached the Chi refinement stage. In some dojos, children of 5 or 6 years old all had a strict bearing. Their small faces were solemn as they followed their masters to practice sword dao and martial arts. They were the basic cultivation methods that Tianqing School had previously announced. Although demon beasts appeared in the wilderness, and they were very ferocious and powerful. But they were all blocked outside the city. In the city, people lived leisurely and orderly lives. Moreover, with the growth of spirit qi, the number of people who cultivated increased greatly. Almost all schools opened cultivation courses, and some private dojos were even more popular. In the invasion of the demon race, all the countries in the world suffered heavy losses. Only Hua Xia had a solid foundation, sufficient preparations, and abundant cultivators. Apart from the cultivation world, there weren't many casualties among mortals. Now, it's also the fastest to recover. Government orders are smooth, the world is peaceful, and the people live and work in peace. Qing Lulu said with deep emotion. How difficult it is to prosper a country. Jiang Tian said proudly. In modern times, Hua Xia was once poor and weak. Its technology and system were backward. In the face of the invasion of the global powers, our ancestors shed blood and sweat. In the end, we obtained national liberation and comprehensive economic and social development. After these hardships, the people of Hua Xia have the ability and courage to deal with great changes. Moreover, the system is superior, and the leadership is good, so we can concentrate on doing big things. This is the first major change since ancient times. We overtook the curve and caught up with them. In order to avoid attracting attention, Jiang Tian cast an invisibility spell and went straight into Hua Xia. He rushed to the headquarters of the Huaxia Defenders Alliance in the suburbs of Beijing. Chapter 1708. In the end, when the curtain of night fell, Jiang Tian arrived near the Huaxia Defender Alliance's encampment. He and Zhao Xueqing used the art of creation and changed their appearances slightly. They landed on the street while Cheng Lulu put on her sunglasses. The sunglasses were also a small artifact that could block the detection of divine senses. This Wild Goose Lake Club actually changed into a cultivation-themed bar. Cheng Lulu scanned the surroundings, and her sweet face revealed a strange expression. She had only left for a year, but she also discovered that this place had undergone earth-shattering changes. The original restaurants and shops had all been changed into spirit pills and magic tool trading places, as well as various cultivation-related clubs, bars, and training halls. The place was bustling with noise and excitement. On the bustling street, shop doors were opened, and someone used a loudspeaker to shout, "Child, if you want to cultivate, quickly come to Qingqing's tutoring class. We have professional foundation establishment teachers, and the subjects cover alchemy, artificing, and sword Dao." According to past data, after the tutoring class training, the enrollment rate of freshmen increases by 80%, and there is a chance to directly enter the Boundless Training Hall. Daoist Floating Cloud talks about how to successfully reach foundation establishment under harsh conditions. Today, the Desolation Temple is giving a lecture on the Watch Me broadcast channel. You only need to pay 5,000 crystals to obtain the personal guidance of a master for one-on-one teaching. At the same time, a different voice was heard. What's so great about cultivating? Martial Dao is the strongest in the world. No matter how many changes you make and how many spells you use, I will break them with a single punch. The Longwei Martial Arts Club opens its doors to poor students without cultivation aptitude. My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. That's how domineering it is. These two training institutions seemed to adhere to different philosophies, and they were on opposite sides of the same street. All kinds of shouting across the air made the passers-by stare blankly. All kinds of details, many vivid scenes, and a thick aura of cultivation civilization hit the face. At this time, everyone passed by a restaurant. A waiter wearing an apron said with a smile, "Dear guests, even if you haven't cultivated to Anidia, you still have to eat. Tonight, our head chef is introducing 8 treasures rare tiger meat and steamed 1,000-year-old Chinese turtle essence meat. Welcome to come in and taste." Chinese turtle essence. Originally, when the big black dog heard that there was demonic beast delicacies to eat, his mouth was drooling. But all of a sudden, he was attracted by a small advertisement on a telephone pole that offered a high price for a child. This advertisement has already been notarized by the city's Cultivation Association. It has legal effect. Madame Wang, 28 years old, 1.72 meters tall, voluptuous and charming, warm and cheerful personality, good at dual cultivation. My husband is an Oris Core Stage Grandmaster. Because of chi deviation, he lost the ability to reproduce. In order to inherit the huge family business, after discussion, I'm looking for a healthy man to conceive and fulfill my mother's dream. If I'm satisfied with the call, I'll send you a deposit of 200,000 middle-grade spirit stones as soon as possible. If you're pregnant, I'll give you another 800,000 middle-grade spirit stones as a reward. Phone number, XXXX. There was a beautiful woman printed on the advertisement, and the large black dog was dazed upon seeing this. Scammers nowadays are really keeping up with the times. Will Qin Shi Huang revive and give me money? Below the advertisement for a child, there was an advertisement for a son-in-law. The capital's wealthy Qing family is looking for a son-in-law. The man is 25 to 35 years old, 1.8 meters tall and above, unmarried, and his cultivation level must not be lower than the early stage of foundation establishment. He's good at alchemy, a disciple of a famous sect, and has participated in the Earth Defense War. If both parties are suitable, the woman's family will immediately send 80,000 middle-grade spirit stones and a middle-grade spirit treasure as dowry, and provide the man with 300 ordinary caves with complete facilities. It's changed. It's changed too much. It's completely different from when I left 2 years ago. It's changing with each passing day. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent moon shape, and she sighed with emotion. It's full of vitality, and it's advancing at a rapid pace. Jiang Tian, however, felt very gratified. He had gone through a lot of hardships, went deep into various dimensions, and looked for the seeds of revival. He stood his ground against the opinions of the masses and swept away many opposing forces. Finally, he had planted the eternal Tao foundation for Earth and revived the spiritual aura. What he wanted to see was the current golden age of cultivation. What he wanted was for everyone to be able to cultivate, reach a new level of life, and give birth to a powerful cultivation civilization. Senior, let's go to the Guiyan Lake Bar. It's a place where the members of the League of Guardians often go in and out. We should be able to get a feel of the current situation easily. Finally, after walking around, Cheng Lulu suggested. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, and there was nothing wrong with that. The group of people entered the Guiyan Lake Bar with the big black dog. Our shop has recently launched a new version of Green Flame Vodka, which is most suitable for foundation establishment cultivators. Mortals will immediately be burned to death after drinking it, and Qi refinement cultivators will have gastric perforation after drinking it. There's also a big demon steak. Would you like to try it, sir and miss? The bartender immediately came up to them and said with a smile on his face. Okay. Jiang Tian ordered some food and drinks, and while eating, he glanced around. There were many cultivators gathered here, and a few of them even wore the emblem of the Huaxia League of Guardians. However, whether it was Jiang Tian, his wife, or Cheng Lulu, they felt very unfamiliar and did not know who they were. The new generation was replacing the old, and it was said that the Huaxia League of Guardians already had tens of thousands of people, and the area of their base had expanded by 10 times. On an empty space in the bar, there was a holographic projection TV that was playing a talk show, Approaching Cultivation. 10 days ago, a three-eyed violent ape that weighed more than 10 tons appeared in the Hengduan Mountains. It was said to be a primordial species. In just 10 days, this three-eyed violent ape had already killed more than 230 cultivators, including 3 false core cultivators. It was said that even the Southwest Army's small Koalian controllable nuclear fusion weapons could not kill it. However, at 3:00 in the morning today, this heinous three-eyed violent ape was successfully killed by the Kunlun Sect's Zongzi, Ji Mingchuan. Now, let's contact the Kunlun Sect's Zongzi, Golden Core Cultivator, Ji Mingchuan, who is still slaying demons in the Hengduan Mountains, and let him talk about the situation at that time. The host said excitedly. Ji Mingchuan. Jiang Tian felt that the name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember who it was. He is the son of the Kunlun Sect's former sect master, Ji Muxian. Cheng Lulu explained hurriedly, her beautiful eyes filled with disbelief. However, during the battle between Senior and the famous Pre-Qin sects, at the beginning of the counterattack, Yi Karen used the basic sword technique that Senior had announced and defeated Ji Muxian with one strike, destroying his Dantian and cultivation to avenge Yi Zhantian. In the past few years after the recovery of Spirit Qi, Senior Li Wuji, who had ascended to the Golden Core level, regained control of Kunlun and cooperated with the Tianqing School and the Mythological Alliance to suppress the cultivation world of Huaxia. Ji Muxian and his son were expelled from Kunlun, and they took Yi Yuhui and other Kunlun outcasts to live in seclusion. Why are they back now? So it's him. Jiang Tian took a sip of the green flame vodka and finally had an impression of it. It all started when Jiang Tian entered the West Earth dimension. Ji Muxian of the Kunlun sect wanted to compete with Jiang Tian for control of the Huaxia Guardians Alliance. During a martial arts competition, he suddenly used a killer move and severely injured Yi Zhantian, becoming the real controller of the Huaxia Guardians Alliance. Later, when the famous Pre-Qin sects rose, the ambitious Ji Muxian chose to cooperate with them to stop Jiang Tian from recovering Spirit Qi and compete for the position of Mythological Alliance's leader. At that time, it was impossible for Li Wuji to control him. In the end, it was Yi Karen who severely injured Ji Muxian and destroyed his dantian, but he didn't kill him. Instead, he let him leave with Ji Mingchuan, Yi Yuhui, and the others. After all, he was Yi Karen's teacher, and Yi Karen also cared about their old friendship. He remembered that Ji Mingchuan was just a foundation establishment cultivator at that time, but 4 years later, he had also reached the golden core level. It's the duty of a cultivator to slay demons and protect mortals. As the son of a famous sect, this is what I should do. There's nothing to say. On the holographic light screen, a handsome young man in a Taoist robe with an unruly face appeared. He snorted proudly and said, "Don't worry." He sneered and said, "However, I need to make one thing clear. The demon beasts are wreaking havoc, the demon race is causing chaos, and the human race has suffered heavy losses. Kang Te Chu has an unshirkable responsibility. As the saying goes, those who are not of our kind are bound to have different intentions. The demon race is cruel, but Kang Te Chu took in the moon-worshipping wolf clan, the sea clan, and other demon races as his subordinates and formed the mythological alliance. This is called nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity. The human race on Earth relaxed their vigilance and gave the demon race an opportunity to take advantage of. Now everyone has seen how many cultivators died when the Big Dipper demon race invaded. How many cities were destroyed in a day? How many people lost their homes and families? These dead cultivators and mortals, this blood feud, half of it should be blamed on the Big Dipper demon race, and the other half should be blamed on Kang Te Chu. Kang Te Chu is the sinner of Earth. Hearing this, Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold, but his face was calm. He took a sip of the green flame vodka without batting an eyelid. This kid, how dare he slander me like this and distort the truth? He's too hateful. Cheng Lulu was so angry that her face turned pale and her eyes were about to spit fire. Chapter 1709. Wow! Ji Mingchuan is back. Our Chuan is handsome, has a high cultivation level and is from a famous sect. He's perfect. His cultivation level has skyrocketed since he came out of seclusion. He must have killed more than 20 golden core beasts. This record is enough to show disdain for the world. Even Kang Te Chu wasn't so powerful back then. In the bar, a few female cultivators immediately cheered and discussed, as if they were fans facing their idol. In fact, the cultivators on Earth were like celebrities in the past. They would practice spells and kill demons on live broadcast, capturing countless fans and being followed by billions of people. What's so great about a golden core cultivator? I've eaten at least 800 golden core cultivators, if not 1,000. I'll swallow his golden core in one gulp. The big black dog ordered a plate of cold Chinese turtle essence and ate heartily. His face was even darker with anger. Of course. Now the Kunlun sect and the Boundless Dojo are working together to cultivate cultivators on Earth. And Ji Mingchuan has received personal guidance from the dojo master of the Boundless Dojo. Those are cultivators from other planets. Yeah, cultivators from other planets are really amazing. Any one of them is at least a golden core cultivator, and there are countless nascent soul cultivators. How can the men on Earth compare to them? Especially when the Boundless Dojo and cultivators from other planets were mentioned, the female cultivators in the bar were even more excited. Are cultivators from other planets so good? Cheng Lulu looked gloomy. That's not strange. Jiang Tian couldn't help but smile bitterly and sigh. In 2018, in his previous life, even billionaires were like this. They looked up to foreigners psychologically and their national pride hadn't been established yet. Especially in the upper-class society, they urgently needed to be recognized by the West. Those who were into music spent money to perform in Vienna's Golden Hall. Those who were involved in commercials had to find a few foreigners to appear in the screen. This was taught by professors, as if with the help of Westerners, things were real money. After studying hard for more than 10 years, they might not even be able to show their foreign passport during the college entrance examination. Universities even asked students to clean the dormitories for foreign students. At that time, even a white loser could do well in Huaxia, not to mention the rich or nobles from other countries. Even a lazy black man could wantonly harvest a lot of easy girls in Huaxia, and his mother-in-law was proud of it. Before a true sense of national pride was established, it was inevitable that they would worship foreigners. Moreover, they were now facing powerful alien cultivators. I'm afraid that this person isn't unaware of the Big Dipper demon clan's arrival. Instead, he's opportunistic and has chosen to side with the Big Dipper demon clan for the sake of profit. Staring at Ji Mingchuan on the screen, Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes emitted traces of coldness as she mocked. Don't be agitated. Jiang Tian smiled and patted Zhao Xueqing's hand as if he didn't hear Ji Mingchuan's provocation. However, Kang Teichu is, after all, the pioneer of the revival of spirit qi. He has also announced more than 30 sets of basic cultivation techniques and planted the foundation of Earth for all eternity. These achievements can't be erased, right? The host asked with a smile. The revival of spirit qi was only to save the life of his pregnant wife. Do you think Kang Teichu is so kind and selfless? At that time, 9 dragons of spirit qi came from all over the world, from the famous mountains and rivers of Huaxia straight to Sidoni's Tianqing school. Didn't you see it? Ji Mingchuan's words were sharp and harsh as he said mercilessly. Who is the biggest beneficiary of the revival of spirit qi? Kang Teichu's family, the Tianqing school. He drew 90% of the spirit qi on earth to the Tianqing school and gave it to his wife and children. If the spirit qi hadn't been drawn away, the famous mountains and rivers of Huaxia, such as Kunlun and Wudong, would have been refined to the limit and flourished. They would have the strength to fight against the demon race and wouldn't have suffered so many losses. As for the cultivation techniques you mentioned, you also said that they are basic cultivation techniques. Ji Mingchuan said with disdain. Why would Kang Teichu show the real secret cultivation techniques to others? Kang Teichu's cultivation techniques are nothing compared to those of the Wuya sect and the Beihan sect. They are the worst of the worst. Let me tell you this once. I tried to practice the basic sword technique of the Tianqing school, but my progress was very slow. After a year of practice, I still couldn't make a breakthrough. However, I practiced the Beihan sect's sword technique and reached the golden core level within a year. I could kill 10 miles with one strike. Shameless. Qing Lulu was so angry that her body trembled. Her face turned pale and she clenched her fists. Crack. The wine glass made of jade shattered into pieces. This kid is so good at changing the subject. Blackie gritted his teeth and said. That's right. Back then, Jiang Tian had led most of the spirit qi to the Tianqing school, which led to the appearance of the 9 dragons and the appearance of the phoenix, which shocked the world. But Zhao Xueqing and Jiang Tian had sacrificed a lot to protect Earth over the years. How many difficult battles had they been through? Jiang Tian went straight into the star ocean, crossed galaxies and traveled 4 light years to reach the 2 stars south gate, and opened up the battlefield in the ruins of deity. Jiang Tian had gone through more than 4 years of arduous battles. He had killed over 100 divine transformation god lords before finally suppressing the empire of the ruins of immortality. He defeated the stronger ones with his own strength and washed away the humiliation of 10,000 years. He freed billions of enslaved natives of the deity ground and established peace for Earth. Zhao Xueqing fought against more than 100 divine transformation realm cultivators from the ruins of immortals alone. She fought with her life on the line. If it weren't for the Tianqing school and Jiang Tian and his wife, Earth would have been occupied by the expedition army of the ruins of deity. The story of the invasion of the monsters and the arrival of the cultivators of the Beidu sect wouldn't have happened. What did Ji Mingchuan do during the invasion of the ruins of deity? He didn't do anything. He could only do whatever he wanted on Earth, but here he was, talking about the world with a superior attitude. Did he deserve it? Was he qualified? STH. Is the effect so obvious? The host was shocked and said in disbelief, so, at least for some cultivators, the cultivation arts of the Beihan sect are much more effective than the basic sword arts of the Tianqing school. No. In fact, 100% of the cultivators feel the same way. The human cultivators of the Beidou sect are the real selfless ones. Han Ming and Zongzi are the pacifists of the universe. Jiang Taichu was only trying to gain fame by deceiving the world for his own benefit. The gap is too big. Ji Mingchuan flattered again and worshipped the Beihan sect and the other civilizations of the Beidou sect. I knew it. He has become the loyal dog of the Beihan sect. At this moment, Qing Lulu didn't want to say anything more. There was only sadness in her heart. In any era, in any race, there were despicable people who acted as the lackeys of other races for their own benefit. There's an evaluation in the cultivation world that Kang Taichu has done a lot to restore the spirit qi, and it's enough to be recorded in history. However, it was a big mistake to include the monsters when forming the mythical alliance. So, the merits should be equal. What do you think? But the interview in the holographic video was still going on. The host asked with a smile. I'm not a cultivation historian, so I won't comment. Ji Mingchuan spoke confidently and mockingly to the camera. I just want to say that even if Kang Taichu has made indelible contributions, it's all history. However, that was history. It was the past. But now, there are many new people and many of them have reached the golden core or even the nascent soul level. This is a new era, not his era. Besides, the cultivators of the Beidou sect once said that there are more than 100 soul formation cultivators in the ruins of immortality. Kang Taichu and Zhao Xueqing might have died there. But there's no need to worry. The ruins of immortality is already facing a disaster and the stars are out of control. This civilization only has 30 years to live. If there are really more than 100 soul formation cultivators, I'm afraid Kang Taichu and his wife won't be able to support them. The host nodded, worriedly, and showed some pity. Qing Lulu noticed that the cultivators in the bar didn't react at all, as if Jiang Tian's death had nothing to do with them. She couldn't help but feel sad and sighed. The world doesn't know Kang Taichu. Humans are so forgetful. Chapter 1710. So what if they occupy the ruins of immortality? After all, many planets in the ruins of immortality will turn into ashes under the expansion of the stars. Does it make any sense? Ji Mingchuan shook his head and said with disdain. That is to say, Kang Taichu set up a wrong target from the very beginning. The civilization of the ruins of immortality is nothing to worry about. The real enemy is the Big Dipper monster clan, or rather, all monster clans. He continued, I even suspect that Kang Taichu and his wife knew about the invasion of the Beidou monsters in advance and ran to the ruins of immortality because they were scared. Unfortunately, they avoided the wolves and walked into the tiger's den. Who can they blame? A cultivator not only needs to be powerful, but also has to be smart. Otherwise, he's just a boorish man. Unfortunately, Kang Taichu doesn't have that. That's enough, little Cheng. Future generations will judge whether or not you have done anything wrong. Seeing Qing Lulu's cold face, trembling body and tears in her eyes, Jiang Tian smiled and tried to persuade her. He had already become indifferent to honor and disgrace and didn't take Ji Mingchuan's words to heart. His words were like an ant roaring at a dragon, they didn't cause any ripples in Jiang Tian's heart at all. In the Myth Alliance competition half a month ago, you represented the Wuya Dojo and defeated Sasaki Kaisha of Tianqing School. Do you have anything to say? The host asked again. It's simple. The cultivation civilization of the Beidou monsters is better than that of Tianqing School, that's all. Ji Mingchuan said with an arrogant and domineering face, as if he had the pearl of wisdom in his hand. Next, we'll represent the Wuya Dojo and the Beidou inheritance and defeat all the disciples of Tianqing School. Alright then. We wish Taoist priest Ji the best of luck in the competition in a few days, and hope that you'll be able to shine again. The host ended the interview. Then, some news was broadcasted and commented, most of which were related to the cultivation world. Jiang Tian already knew about the news and the discussions of the cultivators around him. Zhao Xueqing had killed the expedition army of the divine general of the ruins of immortality on Mars and had been deliberately erased. These achievements were not spread to Earth at all. At least, they were not recognized by the government or the mythological alliance. And when the Myth Alliance fought against the Big Dipper demon race, the 9 elders of Hong Meng, Wei Feilong's 3 disciples, and Yi Tianren had all fallen. Jiang Tian's direct descendants had been severely weakened. At that moment, the Assyrian king of the Tower of Babel, the new king Geoffrey, and the king of the pyramid, Seti, seemed to have received help from the gods. Their cultivation levels skyrocketed, and they entered the nascent soul realm in a day. Together, they suppressed old Buddha Lotus, Hua Qingtian, Li Wuji, and the others, seizing control of the Myth Alliance. Geoffrey, who was only 20 years old, was elected as the leader of the alliance. After that, Ji Muxian also became the chosen one of the Kunlun sect. Within a day, his dantian was repaired and he stepped into the nascent soul stage. He defeated the ancestral patriarch of the Kunlun sect, Li Wuji, and became the sect leader of the Kunlun sect and the leader of the Alliance of Guardians of Huaxia. In the eyes of the world, these were top secrets. It was as if they were just an internal conflict of the Myth Alliance. But Jiang Tian didn't need to think to know that this was the support of Han Ming Zongzi and the other so-called righteous alliance. After the situation stabilized, the 4 top holy clans, including the North Frost clan, arrived like saviors. They led the Myth Alliance, the Huaxia Guardians, and other forces to start a war to protect Earth. They swept through and drove away the demons. Tianqing School, Kunlun Sect, Wudang Sect, Diansang Sect, and many other sections. The Flood Alliance around the world can't do it. They fought for more than a year and suffered heavy casualties, but they still can't defeat the Big Dipper demon race. Yes, even Heavenly Star, Heavenly State, and the West Earth dimension can't withstand a single blow. They can't defeat the Big Dipper demon race. The key is that Kang Teichu can't. Didn't Ji Mingchuan say that the cultivation art he released is too weak? As the saying goes, a soldier is weak, but a general is weak. On the other hand, Geoffrey and Ji Muxian were powerful and talented. With the help of the Big Dipper Righteous Alliance, they wiped out the Big Dipper demon race in just a month. Sigh, Kang Teichu's era is really over. It's time to turn the page. When talking about the invasion of the aliens in the past 2 years and the war to protect Earth, the female cultivators next to them were all disdainful of Jiang Tian and the Tianqing school. Instead, they regarded the alien cultivators and the new Myth Alliance as sacred beings and had a very high opinion of them. The episode of Going to Cultivation had come to an end, but a few pieces of news caught Jiang Tian's attention. After the Myth Alliance declared war on all demon clans, the Tianqing sect still took in Earth's demon clans at the risk of universal condemnation, such as Fox Demon by Sujuan and Great Demon Equal to Heaven. Under the repeated orders of the Myth Alliance, the acting sect master, Jiang Changgang, ignored the persuasion of the Big Dipper cultivators and still insisted that the demons on Earth had fought to protect Earth and that their historical contribution couldn't be denied. He refused to hand over the demons. Besides, he wanted to fight for the survival rights of the demons on Earth. The leader of the Myth Alliance, Geoffrey, will start the last round of negotiations with the Tianqing school in 3 days. The Snow God Temple spent 10 billion superior-grade crystals to buy the shares of Watch Me. But the chairman, Zhang Yilin, refused. Watch Me shone after the recovery of Spirit Chi and the number of registered users kept increasing. It has broadcast tens of thousands of battles to protect Earth and has become the world's top media group. After hearing the news, Jiang Tian thought for a while and said in a low voice, "Qing, we're going to split up now. I'll get the Dharma artifact left by the Scorpio Divine Lord and make it public to the world. Then, I'll suppress the puppet dojos of the Beihan sect and kill Ji Muxian and the others. You, go to the Tianqing school immediately. I'm worried that the negotiation with Geoffrey is fake and the battle is real. You have to go and take charge. We have to settle our internal problems before we fight foreign aggression. If we don't get rid of these lackeys of the Alliance of Justice and Order in advance, they will cause trouble behind our backs when we fight with Han Ming and the others. We have to be careful." Okay. In fact, Zhao Xueqing really wanted Jiang Tian to go back to the main dojo of the Sidoni Tianqing school with her and gather with her daughter and parents. However, she knew that Jiang Tian cared about the world. Since he had made a decision, as his good wife, she had to support him and not drag him down. Be careful. Our daughter and I are waiting for you to come home. At the door of the bar, Zhao Xueqing tucked Jiang Tian's collar. Her clear and beautiful eyes were full of affection as she said goodbye to Jiang Tian. I'm not afraid of Han Ming, Zongzi, and the others. Not to mention their puppets and henchmen. It's just that this kid is too vicious and has deceived many cultivators on Earth. Therefore, I have to announce the truth and kill them one by one after some screening. Jiang Tian said lightly. Yes. Hubby, I believe in you. You are the most powerful man under the starry sky. Zhao Xueqing's clone looked up at Jiang Tian with an expression of reverence and adoration. She smiled sweetly with extreme satisfaction, but she sighed with melancholy in her heart. She didn't know why, but after returning from the ruins of immortality, he seemed to have some estrangement and distance with her. Along the way, he rarely touched her, let alone made love. Originally, she wanted to give birth to another child for him. Hubby, I'm leaving first. Putting away her thoughts, Zhao Xueqing stepped into the air and made an invisibility spell. She stepped on a flying sword and flew in the direction of the Tianqing school at lightning speed. At this moment, she was eager to return home. Coincidentally, Divine Lord Scorpio sealed the Dharma artifact of the image imprint in the secret realm of the Yin sect, Langyi Academy. Watching Qing'er disappear into the horizon, Jiang Tian murmured with a faint smile, that's right. I wonder how much Dugu Shao, who was half a step away from the immortal state 10 years ago, has improved his cultivation. That guy is quite talented. Plus, with the recovery of spirit qi, he must have stepped into the foundation establishment or even the core formation level. Chapter 1711. Dugu Shao, a disciple of the Yin sect in the Hengduan Mountains, was the first disciple of the Yin sect that Jiang Tian had met since he was reborn. Tang Linglong had killed many of the Cherry Blossom Society's whalers in the East China Sea and caused a huge commotion. She was persecuted by the newly risen Condor team and was sent to Japan for trial. Jiang Tian took the blame on behalf of his disciple and went to Japan to suppress the Japanese cultivation world in the name of trial. And on the sea to East Ocean, Jiang Tian met an incomparably coquettish young man who was riding a whale and killing whaling ships, Dugu Shao. In Japan, Jiang Tian, Dugu Shao, and Yi Zhantian dominated the Japanese cultivation world and fought to their heart's content. Jiang Tian really dominated East Asia in that battle and became famous all over the world. But after the battle, Dugu Shao was taken back to his sect by Taoist master Qing Mu and never saw him again. The cultivators of the Yin sect had always been aloof from the world and focused on cultivation. They were even more low-key than the reclusive royalty. The 9 elders of Hongmeng were only a few. Regarding this, Jiang Tian also had an understanding attitude. Who would have thought that when the nest was overturned, no egg would remain intact? They still couldn't escape the turmoil of the world. After the spirit qi recovery, many ancient mystic realms on Earth, including those of the Langyi Academy, were affected by the changes of the laws of heaven and earth. When the Big Dipper demon clan invaded, these secret realms that were rich in spirit energy naturally became the targets that the demon clan wanted to occupy the most. They fell one after another. On the other hand, the cultivators of Langyi Academy were rather lucky. In the end, they managed to escape from the siege of many demons. After Heavenly Scorpion Lord and the others were expelled, Dugu Shao and the others returned to their mystic realms. At the same time, the forces of the Beihan sect also moved in. However, Heavenly Scorpion Lord hid the Dharma artifact with a secret technique and left it in the Langyi Academy. But Dugu Shao and the cultivators of the Beihan sect didn't know about it. Heavenly Scorpion Emperor also played a trick on him. Who would have thought that the evidence that Han Ming Zongzi was trying so hard to find was right under their feet on Earth? From the capital to the Hengduan Mountains, we have to cross almost half of Huaxia. I'm afraid we'll meet many old friends along the way. Jiang Tian stroked his chin and muttered to himself. But since we're in Beijing, we should go and see Zhang Yilin. The Snow God Palace that wants to buy my live stream is actually the puppet of the Snow God Palace on Earth. They are also the henchmen of the Beihan sect. I'm afraid they don't come with good intentions. I have to go take a look. In the next moment, Jiang Tian flicked his sleeve and disappeared with Cheng Lulu. Beijing, Fragrant Mountain, Yuhua Villa. More than 10 years ago, this was the residence of the Bai family, one of the 6 great aristocratic families in the capital. The mistress of the residence, Hao Hongmei, was the younger sister of Hao Taichung of the Mount Shu sword sect. Among them, the Shuangqing villa had 2 spiritual veins, and was blessed by the heavens. After the fall of the Bai family, this villa became Jiang Tian's residence in China. It helped Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing achieve breakthroughs a few times. It was only when Sidoni's strategic shift that he left the villa and gave it to his grandfather, Zhang Jinghua's family. After the revival of spirit qi, the 2 spirit veins that had been depleted were rejuvenated and spirit springs gushed out. In the past 5 years, this place had become a famous cultivation ground because of the concentration of spirit qi and the ease of enlightenment. In the whole of Huaxia, there were countless rich and powerful people who couldn't wait to spend a lot of money to buy a small villa here. Then, he would send the disciples of the family who had the potential to cultivate here to cultivate. There were also many old people who lived there. Old Zheng, are you out practicing martial arts again? Brother son, you haven't rested either. That's right. Recently, my son asked a master for advice and gave me a method to train my muscles and bones. Although I'm old and can't cultivate qi like the young people, I think it's good to train my muscles and bones and live for another 20 or 30 years. I won't let down the good intentions of the younger generation. In a square halfway up the mountain, a few old men were greeting each other. They were wearing clothes made of velvet silk, tailored to fit. The material and workmanship were obviously not industrial products on the market. The old men all had white hair, but their backs were straight. They walked as if they were flying and their spirits were very good. They climbed the mountain together to cultivate. Grandpa Zheng, Grandpa's son, don't go up. Something happened at the Shuangqing villa. Near the Shuangqing villa, a few young people suddenly walked down the mountain in a hurry. They showed fear and panic and reminded them repeatedly. These young people were the elite disciples of the new cultivation families in the capital. Although they were only 18 or 19 years old, they had already reached qi cultivation. They could walk on water, pick flowers, and hurt people. Their temperament was either elegant or as steady as Mount Tai. They were completely different from ordinary mortals. Isn't the Shuangqing villa the property of the Zhang family? What can happen? Old Zheng was confused. What else can happen? Something big happened. One of them, a young man in a snow-white training suit, pulled Elder Zheng down and explained, Elder Zheng, just now, the cultivators of the Snow God's Palace went to negotiate with Zhang Yilin. I heard that they didn't come to an agreement and even fought. Zhang Huchen, the foundation establishment cultivator of the Zhang family, knelt down after being slapped. The villa is a mess now. It has been destroyed. Zhang Jinghua is Kang Teichu's grandfather. The Zhang family of Yanjin is backed by Sidoni's Tianqing school. In the past few years, they have been doing everything in Huaxia. How dare they fight with the Snow God's Palace? Old Zheng was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Hey! That's old news. Grandpa Zheng, don't you read the news? The young man stomped his feet and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Now that the Tianqing school has suffered heavy losses in the battle against the monsters, there are only a few big and small cats left. They are already on the verge of collapse, but they still took in the demons and became the target of public criticism. They can't even protect themselves, let alone the Zhang family. Those orthodoxies with extraterrestrial backgrounds are the ones with a lot of talents and strong soldiers. I think so. This time, the Zhang family is in trouble. They might be removed from the list. As soon as he said that, everyone nodded. Sigh, back then, Kang Teichu dominated the world alone. He was respected by all the worlds in Tianxing, Heavenly State and West Earth. How peerless and unparalleled was he! Who would have thought that in just 5 years, there would be new talents in the pugilistic world, and the new generation would replace the old? Old Zheng was stunned for a moment. He had mixed feelings in his heart and sighed. No one noticed that when they hurried down the mountain, an invisible ray of light tore through the air and swept across the sky above their heads. In the Shuangqing villa. Under the milky white moonlight, the place was in a mess. The octagonal pavilion had already collapsed. More than a dozen corpses were lying on the ground, and the blood stained the marble floor. Like a stream, the falling red maple leaves were sent into the Shuangqing spring water filled with spiritual aura. The two forces were clearly at loggerheads. Zhang Yilin, do you still want people to die? You've seen how powerful the palace of the snow god is. If you continue to resist, only death will await you. Hand over the shares to us. Yi Yuhui, who was already in the Golden Core realm and wearing a white Taoist robe, stood behind an old man wearing a black robe embroidered with the words, Palace of the Snow God, and said with a cold voice. On the side of the Palace of the Snow God, there were a total of more than 10 Golden Core cultivators. They wore the standard robes given by the Palace of the Snow God, and each of them had a solemn aura. Their every movement seemed to be in harmony with the great path of heaven and earth, harmonious and natural, but it also brought about great psychological pressure. Chapter 17:12. You want to take the shares? Sure, but you have to kill me. Zhang Yilin was now 27 or 28 years old. Although she was at the foundation establishment stage, she was still wearing a beige business suit, high heels, and silky stockings that wrapped around her slender legs. She was graceful and elegant, with exquisite makeup on her pretty face and a pair of black-rimmed glasses on her nose. She was dressed like a strong woman in the workplace. Facing the heavy pressure, her face was cold and she didn't give in at all. On her side, Han Qingli, the financial director and the daughter of the Han family in Yanjin, and Zhao Qianru, the vice president and Jiang Tian's sister-in-law, were all nervous and angry. Zhang Huchen, who had just swallowed a healing elixir, was sitting on a chair with a pale face and groaning. Next to him, Zhang Jiangfeng was hesitant and his eyes were full of fear. Stubborn. The old man sitting on the stone bench suddenly slammed his hand on the table. The marble table immediately turned to dust. He released his aura and coldly shouted, "Who are you?" He said with a cold voice, "We'll not only give you 10 billion crystal stones, but we'll also take you into the palace to practice cultivation arts. This is your great fortune, the good fortune of your 8 lifetimes. It's just worldly wealth, but you're so addicted to it. You're really stubborn." If someone from Huaxia's cultivation world was there, they would definitely recognize this person. He was the most famous grandmaster in history before the spirit qi recovery, Kai Shaochen. This person was very untalented and had low comprehension. Although he was from a famous 8 extremities fist sect, he had only reached the transcendent grandmaster level at the age of 80. When Jiang Tian became a young grandmaster, the busybodies on the martial arts forum and the dark net always liked to compare him with Jiang Tian, which made him very jealous of Jiang Tian. Whenever Jiang Tian made any movements and his cultivation base was mentioned, there would definitely be a sentence after that. You know, Kai Shaochen reached the transcendent state at the age of 80 and he's called a grandmaster. Originally, it was an incredible achievement for him to reach the transcendent grandmaster level in the age of doom, even at the age of 80. But when compared to Jiang Tian, he seemed so miserable, so pitiful, and so unbearable. Every time she saw this news, Elder Kai would be so angry that her hands would tremble, and her high blood pressure would almost flare up. After the battle between Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren, many of the forces that had betrayed Jiang Tian, such as the Jiang Tian's Yi Wudao clan and the Southwest's Wuingxiong clan, were eradicated. Kai Shaochen, who was shouting the loudest at that time, was so scared that he went crazy, he vomited green bile and fainted on the spot. However, this person's cultivation was simply too low. Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to kill him, so he let him go. He never imagined that after the Big Dipper cultivators descended, he would be lucky and be taken in as a subordinate of the heavenly snow palace. They used medicinal pills to boost his cultivation and actually helped him break through to the nascent soul stage in a short year. He was in the limelight for a while. Of course, the objective of the Big Dipper cultivators was to prove the superiority of their cultivation method and orthodoxy, and to dispel Jiang Tian's influence. See, even such a piece of trash, as long as he cultivated the Big Dipper cultivation method, he would still be able to ascend to the heavens, and directly enter the nascent soul stage. Indeed. I'm just an ordinary person. I have no interest in cultivation, and of course, I have no interest in the heavenly snow palace. It's just worldly wealth, and it's just watching my live broadcast. Why do you insist on being poor? Zhang Yilin said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. She didn't know the inside story behind the Big Dipper cultivators of the Beihan sect controlling the monsters to invade Earth. However, from their actions, Zhang Yilin could tell that the Big Dipper cultivators weren't kind people. In addition to supporting the new cultivation forces such as the Desolation Temple and fighting for control of the Myth Alliance and the Guardians of Huaxia, the Big Dipper cultivators were also manipulating public opinion. At the moment, almost all the large media groups in the world had been bought by the Big Dipper puppets such as the Wuya Arena, the Heavenly Snow Palace and the Desolation Temple. These large media groups had been promoting the human cultivators of the Big Dipper cultivators to erase Jiang Tian's historical achievements. Even Zhao Xueqing's attack on the monsters of the ruins of deity on Mars was listed as a taboo topic and no media was allowed to report or spread it. At the moment, Simi Media, by Chou Fei's Tiange Entertainment and Sidoni's official media group were the few media groups that supported Jiang Tian and the Tianqing school. Without these, Jiang Tian would lose the support of public opinion and they would even distort the truth and turn him from the savior of Earth into a sinner. As for the famous mountains, rivers and spirit veins, the Big Dipper puppets had also seized them. Countless of them had been purchased and snatched away by him. It could be said that almost all the large energy and resource giants in the world were secretly controlled by the Big Dipper puppets. In fact, the cultivation resources, institutions, and public opinion of the entire Earth had all fallen into the hands of the Righteous Alliance. However, the Big Dipper cultivators and the Beihan sect used secret methods and ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect it. Zhang Yilin was sure that if the Righteous Alliance's space battleships arrived on Earth one day, they wouldn't be stopped at all and the people on Earth would welcome them as if they were the saviors of the world. Besides, whether the cultivators of the Big Dipper cultivators were the saviors of the world or the ambitious ones, Zhang Yilin could ignore them and stay out of it. Those who were kind to her were kind and those who were evil were evil. As long as they were harmful to Jiang Tian, Zhang Yilin would treat them as enemies and be on guard. So, no matter how many benefits they gave her and how much pressure they put on her, Zhang Yilin wouldn't give up the right to watch the live stream. Zhang Yilin, you're too outdated. Yi Yuhui sneered with disdain. Do you still think this is a peaceful time? Wrong. This is a new era of cultivation. Dragons and snakes dance together and heroes rise together. The strong are respected and the weak are like ants. The bigger the fist, the more reason. She took a step forward and released the terrifying energy of a golden core cultivator. In the mind of everyone, she was like a giant 100 feet tall, making them feel as if Mount Tai was pressing down on them. You're just Chi refinement cultivators and foundation establishment cultivators. Compared to us golden core cultivators, you're nothing. You're just ants. Yi Yuhui raised her eyebrows and shouted. Poof! Poof! Zhang Jiangfeng, who had no cultivation, knelt on the ground and then lay on the ground like a toad. Even if the others were Chi refinement cultivators and foundation establishment cultivators, they were extremely uncomfortable. Their faces became as pale as paper and their bones creaked as if they were about to break. Zhang Huchen spurted out another mouthful of blood. Yilin, just surrender. Grandpa, give the order to sell me to them. We can't take it anymore. Zhang Jiangfeng shouted crazily. He was dispirited and sloppy. His beard was unshaven and his body was fat and greasy. He was no longer handsome and aggressive. The recovery of spirit chi and the arrival of the Big Dipper were the two biggest changes in the past 10,000 years, which brought about a huge change that could destroy everything. Nowadays, those who couldn't cultivate, no matter how rich or talented they were just inferior people who weren't welcomed. Only cultivators were superior to others. When Zhang Jiangfeng found out that he had no foundation for cultivation, it was as if he had fallen from heaven to hell. He fell into complete despair and became a cripple. He spent his days drinking, looking for women, giving up on himself, abandoning himself, and exiling himself. "You're stupid. How could we betray the leader?" Before Zhang Yilin could reprimand him, Zhang Jinghua rose into the air from the villa and shouted loudly, "Don't. Our Zhang clan's achievements today are all due to our relationship with the Alliance Master. Although the Alliance Master doesn't care about our betrayal, we can't forget his kindness in the slightest. We have to know our place at all times. Don't be hesitant and be laughed at by the world." Endless determination flashed across his face. He activated his foundation establishment cultivation to the extreme and shouted, "Children, the other party has made up his mind. Then, let's get ready to fight." On one hand, he was threatened by Yi Yuhui and the others, and on the other hand, he was related by blood. Under great pressure, Zhang Jiangfeng couldn't control himself anymore and couldn't help but cry. But when Zhang Jinghua came out to suppress the situation, Zhang Jiangfeng couldn't say a word of surrender anymore. "Ha, Kang Taechu has already died in the South Gate Galaxy, and you're still so blindly loyal. How ridiculous. However, since you want to die, I don't mind fulfilling your wish and sending you to heaven." Seeing this, Yi Yuhui was furious. His dantian rumbled like thunder and his golden core trembled. An ice goddess more than 100 feet tall rose behind him. The entire villa suddenly became cold, as if it had fallen from early spring to the coldest day. Snow filled the air and the sky was cold. "Old man, go to hell." Her expression was cold, and her clear eyes flashed with ruthlessness. She clapped her right hand, and the ice mountain goddess moved as well. A snowflake the size of a small mountain fell from the sky, pressing down on Zhang Jinghua like Mount Tai. At that moment, countless people in the villa cried out in shock. Zhao Qianru held Zhang Yilin's hand tightly. Her hand was covered in cold sweat. Zhang Yilin gritted her white teeth and looked at the sky. Many disciples were determined. They pushed their cultivation to the peak state, ready to fight to the death. Bang! At that moment, a dazzling golden light cut through the sky and shattered the essence chi snowflake that Yi Yuhui had shot out. That golden light was so dazzling, so magnificent, so dazzling. It was like a fiery red sun that illuminated the entire Yuhua villa and even fragrant mountain, as if it could illuminate this dark world. Everyone couldn't help but look up. In the afterglow of the golden light that was gradually dissipating, a person stepped on the ground with his hands behind his back and walked over step by step. He had black hair, black eyes, and was wearing a black robe. He seemed to be above all things and a true god that controlled thousands of worlds. Kang Taechu. The moment they saw this person, everyone was stunned. Chapter 1713. It's really Jiang Tian. Zhang Huqin and the others yelled the moment they saw Jiang Tian. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru widened their eyes in disbelief. Many members of the Zhang family trembled with excitement. Our sect master is back. At this moment, the entire Shuangqing villa was in dead silence at first, then there was a burst of cheers. Even Kai Shaochen and Yi Yuhui were shocked and couldn't believe it. Rumor had it that there were countless soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deity and Jiang Tian might have died there. Why did he suddenly come back? Besides, the cultivators of the Beidou sect had formed a seal with countless ships to lock Earth. Why didn't he come back at all? Sect Master. Zhang Jinghua's hands trembled and he looked over excitedly, but the next second, he was startled. Oh no! Sect Master, a lot of overlords from the Snow God Palace came this time. There are at least 3 nascent soul cultivators hiding in the dark and they're all high-grade nascent soul cultivators. Each of the 3 nascent soul cultivators has 100 golden core cultivators with them, forming a snow god army. They're invincible and we can't fight them head-on. They're far more powerful than the famous sects of the Qin dynasty and the Tungus demons. Oh no, my cousin just came back. He might not know the situation. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. Then, Yi Yuhui also laughed sarcastically. Ha, Kang Te Chu, I didn't expect you to come back. That's good too. Let's go to the Northern Wilderness Temple and wait for orders. The sects of the other planets are supreme and all the cultivators on Earth have to surrender. In Yi Yuhui's mind, the cultivators on Earth couldn't compare with the cultivators of the Beidou sect at all. The latter was as superior as deities and Buddhas. The humans on Earth, including Kang Te Chu, were just poor ants crawling on the ground. Ah, Kang Te Chu, you're so silly. The spirit chi is recovering and the blessings of the past are erupting in this world, but you went far away and missed the best opportunity. Kai Shaoqin said smugly, when the cultivation civilization of the Beidou sect arrives, there will be 600 million cultivators in the divine land and everyone will be educated and improved. As for you, you missed the opportunity. When you left, you were a gold core cultivator. I'm afraid you're still a gold core cultivator now. He said coldly, back then, I was known as the oldest grandmaster in history, but what about now? I've already reached the nascent soul stage and am known as a perfected cultivator. You, in my eyes, are nothing but a younger brother. At the same time, another 3 nascent soul perfected lords flew over with 100 golden core cultivators each, surrounding Jiang Tian in the middle. Jiang Tian's consciousness moved slightly and he found that these 3 nascent soul cultivators were very special. Although he was an earthling, deep in his bloodline, he exuded a strong aura of the Big Dipper human clan. Jiang Tian immediately understood that the Big Dipper cultivator had used the blood condensation grand art to change their blood essence. Even their divine sense and spirit had been seized. To put it bluntly, they only possessed the skin of the human race on Earth. Being possessed by the Big Dipper cultivator's avatar was like being possessed. Besides, the level of their nascent souls wasn't low. Most of them were at the 6th or 7th grade. In terms of power, they were comparable to normal soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deity. Once the 3 nascent soul cultivators arrived, the world was immediately filled with coldness, as if they had moved from the capital city to the North Pole. The red maples and green bamboos were quickly covered with a layer of snow and many buildings were like jade palaces. Many cultivators were frozen to death. Even with Dharma artifacts to protect themselves, they wouldn't last 10 minutes. Even the master of the palace is here. Kang Te Chu, you're dead this time. Yi Yuhui and the others were full of admiration, as if they had seen a god. Zhang Jinghua, is this Kang Te Chu, the former alliance master of the Myth Alliance whom you consider as your backer? In my opinion, he's only a golden core cultivator with a very low level. You think he's your savior? You must be dreaming. The one with the highest level of power among the 3 was the palace master of the snow god's palace. He said arrogantly and his voice was extremely ear-piercing. I thought this kid would be powerful since he used to be the most powerful cultivator on Earth. But after seeing him today, he's just a so-so. A cold voice was heard on the left. Cut the crap. Kill him. An old voice on the right made the final decision. Bang! The golden core cultivators of the ice team on the left trembled and the elder leading the team even let out a nascent soul roar as he activated all his power. Immediately, an ice snow spirit was formed. This ice snow spirit was 1,000 feet tall. Its body was covered in ice and it was surrounded by mist. Snow fell like goose feathers. It had 3 heads and 6 arms and its 3 faces were either fierce, kind or solemn. Its 6 hands were the size of a basketball court. They grabbed, slapped or hammered at Jiang Tian. Before the palms arrived, a terrifying energy had already been released. The entire area of Fragrant Hill was shaking. Even though many villas had the support of formations, they collapsed and cracked open. In an instant, Many residents fled for their lives like stray dogs. Seeing this scene, countless people turned pale with fright. However, Jiang Tian's expression was still as calm as water. He slowly walked over with his hands behind his back. Wherever he passed, the mighty cold wind, sharp ice arrows, terrifying ice blocks, and even the cold laws were all split apart with him as the center. Some of the Golden Core Realm cultivators were burned to ashes by the golden flames as soon as they got close to him. Then, he activated the Red Bird Divine Law, and it was like the sun in the sky, burning everything. Be careful, Sect Master. That's the Snow God's soul formation. It was formed with the blood of 100 Golden Core cultivators and activated by the Dharma laws of a nascent soul cultivator. It can freeze divine souls and seal dimensions. It's a real forbidden realm. Don't let it go, Zhang Jinghua said worriedly. But then, something even more shocking happened. The arms of the 10,000-foot-tall snow goddess actually burst into flames the moment they came within 10,000 feet of Jiang Tian. Even the laws were burned to ashes. The fire also spread along the arms to their bodies at an extremely fast speed. No! The great elder on the left screamed, his voice filled with fear, unease, and disbelief. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as a ruthless and resolute expression flashed across his face. He had severed 6 of his arms in order to save the goddess of snow's clone. Even so, the dozens of Golden Core cultivators who went up to meet him were still killed. What kind of fire is that? How did it burn the snow god's clone? The Grand Elder was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian was indifferent as he continued to walk unhurriedly. His eyes seemed like they hung high up in the sky, indifferent and distant. It was as if he was looking down upon the vicissitudes of life, the changes in the world, and stood above all things. Kai Shaochen, Yi Yuhui, and the others were dumbfounded. The snow god's clone was the clone of a soul formation grand cultivator. It was said to be indestructible and could freeze everything. And yet, it couldn't even touch Jiang Tian and was burned like a paper lantern? That was unbelievable. After all, in their eyes, Jiang Tian was already a person behind the times. He might not even be able to defeat a nascent soul cultivator on Earth. How could he be so powerful? He could even crush the clone of the snow god easily. That was too terrifying. Kill him. The sect master of the snow god's palace gave an order with viciousness in his eyes. All these years, the Righteous Alliance had been trying to eliminate Jiang Tian's influence, but how could it be as effective as killing him? Boom! Following the palace master's command, the 3 snow deity legions immediately let out a loud rumble. They all turned into giant deities that could support the heavens and the earth. They let out a loud rumble as they charged at Jiang Tian. Each of the snow gods was 1,000 feet tall and snow was falling in a 10-mile radius. They were moving towards Jiang Tian like a mountain. Before they even got close to Jiang Tian, their terrifying energy had already arrived. Boom! Suddenly, the entire area within a few miles of Fragrant Mountain sank a few meters. Even the many protective formations and restrictions all over the capital exploded. At this moment, the tens of millions of people in the capital all looked in the direction of the Yuhua mountain villa. They were all terrified. The snow god's palace is attacking the Zhang family from the direction of the Yuhua villa. What should we do? Should we stop them? That's the snow god's palace. The Wei Rong army stationed there also noticed it immediately. They were uneasy, but they didn't dare to go and stop them. The snow god's palace was too powerful. There were hundreds of golden core cultivators and a few nascent soul cultivators. The regular army felt like ants in front of them. Cousin, be careful. That's a super formation. Don't resist it. At that moment, Zhang Yilan's face turned pale and she shouted to remind her cousin. At this time, Jiang Tian stopped and yawned as if his interest had waned. But when Jiang Tian exhaled, boom! The sun and the moon were upside down and the world was collapsing. At that moment, the world seemed to have been destroyed. Nobody would have thought that Jiang Tian's yawn would be so powerful. It was as if a heavenly lord had opened his eyes and created the world. The entire world was stirred up and the sun and moon were extinguished as Jiang Tian took a breath. Boundless divine light shot out from Jiang Tian's mouth. A mighty gale seemed to blow out from the depths of hell, obliterating one's divine soul and destroying one's body. The three snow god legions were like delicate flowers under a millstone, and they were forcefully crushed and crushed. The three nascent soul cultivators, including the sect master of the snow god's palace, were thrown 10 miles away like golf balls. Other than the three nascent soul cultivators, the other golden core cultivators who attacked were all killed and turned into blood mist. How can he be so powerful? The power of a husky is so terrifying. Run! Although the three nascent soul cultivators were able to survive, it wasn't easy for them. Their flesh was torn and blood was dripping. There were even cracks on their spirit embryos that went straight to their nascent souls. They knew they were no match for him, so they turned around and ran without saying anything. As for the others, they were even more shocked. Cousin has actually become so strong. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru felt as if they were in a dream. They couldn't believe it and their mouths were wide open for a long time. He's still the brightest, most dazzling and strongest man in this universe. Han Qingli murmured and couldn't help but think of the beautiful past when she pretended to be Jiang Tian's girlfriend and barged into the Song family's banquet. This was actually done by my grandson. Zhang Jinghua was also dumbfounded. His mind was stuck, and he was stuttering. Jiang Tian merely yawned, yet hundreds of gold cores were destroyed, and 3 low-grade nascent soul stage cultivators were badly wounded. The power that Jiang Tian showed right then was more than 10 times stronger than when he left Earth. Chapter 1714. On the other hand, Yi Yuhui's face turned pale and she broke out in cold sweat. She had never thought that Kang Teichu would be so powerful. The cultivators of the Big Dipper sect, whom she worshipped like gods, were like ants in front of Jiang Tian. As for Kai Shaochen, he was so scared that he trembled and bent his back, wishing he could kneel down before Jiang Tian. He didn't have the power of a nascent soul perfected cultivator anymore, he was just a pitiful old man. Ah! I can kill the palace master of Snow God Palace with a snap of my fingers. Besides, you're only controlling one of his clones. You're no match for me. It's boring. Just kill them. Jiang Tianyi shook his head dispiritedly. With a look of disinterest, he flicked his fingers. Bang! Bang! 3 rays of Gengjin finger radiance shot into the sky like meteors. They tore through the air and pierced through the heavens and the earth. Their speed was unimaginably fast. The 3 nascent soul perfected cultivators, including the palace master of Snow God Palace, couldn't dodge in time. They didn't even have time to scream before they exploded in the sky like fireworks and turned into powder. Am I dreaming? Zhang Yilin couldn't believe it. The nascent soul cultivators of Snow God Palace were much more powerful than Gu Hu of the Tungus fiends. They were all 6th grade or 7th grade nascent soul cultivators and had a lifespan of 1,000 years. They were middle-aged, nascent soul heavenly lords and were in their prime. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the power of those 3 nascent soul cultivators was comparable to that of 100 Gu Hu. And yet, they were still killed by Jiang Tian with a snap of his fingers. This meant that Jiang Tian's power had increased 100 times or even a few hundred times in just 5 years. Ha! Brother-in-law is so powerful. Zhao Qianru's face flushed and she cheered. She was about the same age as Zhang Yilin, but she didn't have the habit of being mature. She was still like a wild girl. As for Kai Shaochen and Yi Yuhui, they were dumbfounded. They were more powerful and had even participated in the battle against the demons. Thus, he understood even more clearly how terrifying the strength that Jiang Tian displayed was. He had killed hundreds of golden core cultivators with a yawn and killed a nascent soul heavenly lord with a flick of his finger. He was definitely as powerful as a peak stage soul formation cultivator. At the very least, he had the strength to fight against God's son Han Ming. Alliance Master is still the Alliance Master. A genius is a genius after all. At this moment, Kai Shaochen raised his head and looked at Jiang Tian, whose robes fluttered in the wind. He revealed a bitter smile and spoke almost hysterically. He originally thought that with the help of the Big Dipper cultivators, reaching the peak of the nascent soul stage was as easy as climbing Mount Tai. He thought that he had far surpassed Jiang Tian and no longer placed Jiang Tian in his eyes. He had finally broken through the shadow that had shrouded him for the rest of his life, and the clouds parted to see the moon. He didn't expect that. He was even further away from Jiang Tian than before. It was like the distance between heaven and earth. It was like a mortal facing an immortal, still unable to catch up. That's right, the Alliance Master is still the Alliance Master. You're the boss, you'll always be the boss. Zhang Huchen rejoiced in his misfortune. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Yi Yuhui's face changed drastically and he trembled in fear. He couldn't even stand properly and his teeth were chattering fiercely like a machine gun. She had just threatened to kill Zhang Jinghua's family. After all, that was Jiang Tian's grandfather's family. With Jiang Tian's vengeful personality, how could he let her go? After all, it wasn't the first time that she had gone against Jiang Tian. At this moment, she was extremely regretful. The regret in her heart was so strong that it couldn't be washed away even if she poured all the water in the world. Originally, when Yi Karen let her and Ji Muxian go back then, Jiang Tian didn't pursue her crime anymore. She could have concealed her identity and become a free individual cultivator. However, she couldn't resist the temptation of the Beihan sect and stood up against Jiang Tian. She had never thought that Jiang Tian would come back alive and become so powerful, when Jiang Tian floated down to the ground. Senior Tai Chu, I know I was wrong. Yi Yuhui couldn't control the fear in his heart anymore. He knelt down and begged for mercy. Even Kai Shaochen was no longer arrogant and he knelt in front of Jiang Tian as if his spirit had been sucked out. They also knew that they, a nascent soul cultivator and a dozen golden core cultivators, were not enough to fill the gap between Jiang Tian's teeth, so they didn't resist at all. If you know you were wrong, go to hell. Jiang Tian looked indifferent. He waved his hand and a red sparrow true fire swept over. Everyone was immediately burned to ashes. Even the golden core cultivators, who were known to be indestructible, couldn't survive. Great! Seeing this, the entire Zhang family burst into an earth-shattering cheer. It was the joy of surviving a disaster and they were excited about Jiang Tian's invincible power. Cousin. Brother-in-law. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru, with tears in their eyes, threw themselves into Jiang Tian's arms, one on the left and one on the right, tightly hugging his waist. Han Qingli also rushed a few steps forward excitedly, but she stopped abruptly. She knew that Jiang Tian had always kept himself clean and was extremely cold. He had always kept a respectful distance from women. They were Jiang Tian's family and they could certainly hug him, but she didn't have any reason to. Alas, he's already the leader of the unparalleled alliance and I'm no longer that capricious girl, Han Qingli thought gloomily. Jiang Tian had a helpless expression on his face. He could only pat their heads and say with a smile, all right. You're not little girls anymore. You're all strong women in the workplace and female cultivators in the building foundation stage. Why are you still crying? Zhang Yilin let go of him embarrassedly. Brother-in-law, I miss you very much. How's my sister? Zhao Qianru still clung to Jiang Tian like an octopus and refused to let go. Her beautiful eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon, like a kitten. Your sister is fine. She's back in Sidoni. Jiang Tian said softly. Zhang Huchen reminded him worriedly, Leader, those cultivators are proficient in immortal will secret arts, communication dharma artifacts and soul badges. I'm afraid that their masters will soon know about their deaths. You have to be very careful. Don't worry. I've already cast a spell to block all immortal will and messages. They won't be able to get the relevant information. Jiang Tian used the art of creation to repair his damaged meridians and sea of qi. He smiled and said, besides, their masters are only a few soul formation cultivators. What's there to be afraid of? I'll kill as many as they come. Hearing that, everyone looked at each other in shock. They didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so confident. They also knew that this confidence was definitely built on the foundation of strength. Leader, what's the situation in the ruins of deity? Where are you? Zhang Jinghua walked over and asked with a bit of respect and uneasiness. In terms of blood, he was Jiang Tian's grandfather. But after all, he had bullied Jiang Tian's family in the early years. He was afraid that Jiang Tian would hold a grudge against him, so he had always been careful with his words and actions. He didn't dare to act like an elder at all. Instead, he was respectful like a subordinate meeting his superior. Besides, Jiang Tian's status was too high and he was too powerful. He was a bit scared in front of Jiang Tian. The earth of the ruins of deity is very powerful. There are 46 life stars. The emperors of the ruins of deity are all soul formation cultivators. The 10 divine emperors coexist in the world. There are also 3 powerful organizations, the 100 Moon Academy, the Sky Palace and the Emperor's Palace. The headmaster, the Sword God and the Heavenly River Lord are all soul formation cultivators. There are also the 6 Grotto Heavens and the 8 Guardian families. There are a total of 176 soul formation cultivators in the world. Every time Jiang Tian said a word, everyone's face turned paler. In the end, they were as pale as paper. Zhang Jinghua was on the verge of collapse. He couldn't even stand steadily. It's just like what the Big Dipper cultivators said, is it too late to run now? Zhang Jiangfeng was so scared that he trembled and almost peed on the spot. It wasn't just him. In everyone's opinion, Jiang Tian must have been defeated and returned to Earth just to lead everyone to escape. But they didn't expect that Earth would also be occupied by the Big Dipper cultivators. But now, I've killed all of them. Now, I'm the Lord of the Ruins of Deity. Jiang Tian grinned and looked at him disdainfully. Zhang Jinghua was stunned and couldn't believe it. Chapter 17:15. What? Everyone exclaimed. Everyone was stunned. What did hundreds of soul formation cultivators mean? A golden core cultivator was enough to wipe out everything on Earth before the spirit chi was restored. Even the most powerful army and nuclear weapons of the Black Eagle Federation couldn't do anything to a golden core cultivator. Even after the spirit chi was restored and the Dharma laws on Earth were strengthened, 10 soul formation cultivators working together were enough to destroy all the lives on Earth in a day. The beta monsters only had 9 soul formation cultivators, but they were able to suppress the superpowers and occupy Earth in a dozen days. Soul formation cultivators were like gods in the human world. They could form domains, control the great Tao and merge with the world. Not even nascent soul cultivators were comparable to them. That was the difference between mortals and deities. You killed hundreds of soul formation cultivators. Everyone's voice was trembling. That's right. Jiang Tian smiled and said, I killed all the divine emperors, the master of the academy, the sword god and Lord Tai Bai Jingsing. I even killed all the 8 guardian families. From now on, the ruins of deity is no longer the enemy of Earth, but a friendly neighbor. His tone was calm, as if it wasn't a tough battle, but a family affair. Everyone couldn't believe it. At the moment, Jiang Tian had black hair and black eyes. He was wearing a long robe and looked handsome. He didn't look like a peerless divine lord who suppressed the ruins of deity. One had to know that it was a star system, and a star system that was countless times larger than the solar system. How can it be fake? I've eaten countless golden core cultivators, nascent soul cultivators and even soul formation cultivators, let alone our alliance master. The purple true dragon showed up. It wasn't in the shape of a black dog, but was covered in scales. It shook its head and wagged its tail, looking very majestic to support Jiang Tian. It also took out a Dharma artifact and played many scenes of the battle. Everyone was dumbfounded. Such a battle was simply too shocking. The sky was falling and the earth was cracking. The sun and the moon were inverted. Many mountains were razed to the ground in an instant. Many times, more than a dozen soul formation realm warriors attacked Jiang Tian together. Compared to the fierce battle between Jiang Tian and the ruins of deity, the battle to protect Earth was indeed fierce, but there was still a big gap. Good, good, good. Zhang Jinghua was so agitated that tears streamed down his face. Then he suddenly laughed out loud. His laughter grew louder and louder, eventually causing the entire Yuhua villa to tremble. As expected of the Alliance chief of our Earth's Mythology Alliance, the #1 person in the cultivation world. With you around, what do we have to fear from Big Dipper's rascals? Zhang Jinghua couldn't help but rejoice. In fact, after Jiang Tian mended his relationship with the Zhang family also faced many challenges. After all, Jiang Tian had too many enemies, and supporting Jiang Tian was extremely risky. However, Zhang Jinghua never wavered. She was very determined. 3 years of bitter waiting, 3 years of stubbornness, 3 years of torment. At this moment, all of this had transformed into heaven-shaking laughter that dripped with delight. Alliance Master, since you have such power, you should properly plan how to teach those rascals a lesson. In fact, Zhang Jinghua didn't know the inside story and didn't know who the real enemy was. However, in the past few years, he had been watching Jiang Tian, Tianqing School, and other direct descendants lose their power bit by bit. No matter what, it was clear and undeniable. Since Jiang Tian had returned, he had to take control of the Myth Alliance and not let it fall into the hands of outsiders. Yeah, brother-in-law, what's your next move? Zhang Yilin also asked. I'm going to Langyi Academy in the Henduan mountain range to get something. Next, I'll suppress the cultivators of Big Dipper. Jiang Tian said calmly. There was nothing for him to plan. As long as he got the Dharma artifact left by Heavenly Scorpion Lord, he would announce it to the public. Those forces that were deceived by the Beihan sect would either retreat or stand on his side. Those who stood in his way were the real henchmen of Big Dipper. He would just kill them. Langyi Academy. Zhang Yilin frowned and said, I just received some news that the Dugu family of Langyi Academy and Big Dipper cultivators are in a heated argument because of some conflicts. It seems that they have already started a war. Maybe it's because of what you want. What? They've already done it. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and a trace of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. According to Zhang Yilin, there was a quasi-divine Lord Elder of the Beihan sect in Langyi Academy. In fact, almost every secret land that had been exposed was guarded by overlords of the Beihan sect or their henchmen. Some claimed that they were exchanging Dharma arts, some claimed that they were guarding, and some claimed that they were renting. But in fact, the cultivation world respected the powerful. The henchmen of the Beihan sect were powerful and gradually took control of the secret lands. Just a quasi-divine lord? Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold and murderous after hearing that. He sneered and said, How dare you act like a tyrant in the secret lands of the Yin sect? He took out the sky-swallowing demon gourd and 2 divine generals came out. I'm at the Taichu Heavenly Emperor's command. The 2 divine generals were both soul formation cultivators. They half knelt on the ground and cupped their fists, emitting fierce energy. Their energy was earth-shattering and it made people's hearts turn cold. Soul formation grand cultivators. Zhang Yilin's eyes popped out and she exclaimed. That's right. These are soul formation corpse generals from the ruins of deity. Their divine souls have been controlled by my soul devourer. They're just puppets. But with them holding down the fort, this place will definitely be safe. Jiang Tian said leisurely. Oh God! Soul formation corpse generals. Everyone exclaimed and was dumbfounded. Jiang Tian had turned soul formation cultivators from the ruins of deity into corpse generals. If this news were to spread, it would definitely be earth-shattering and heaven-overflowing waves. No one would believe it, because it was just too shocking. On Earth, soul formation grand cultivators were already superior beings. How could they become someone's puppets? Before this, even though Jiang Tian had explained it in detail and the purple gold true dragon had taken out the image of the imprint, everyone still had some doubts in their hearts. After all, this battle record was too heaven-defying. It was like a fantasy story. But when they saw the two soul formation puppets, they knew that Jiang Tian was telling the truth. Lulu, come here. Jiang Tian called Qing Lulu over and immediately taught her a set of methods to control the corpse generals. Oh God! Leader, I've never thought that I would be able to control soul formation puppets one day. This is so exciting. Jiang Tian imparted the technique to her through his divine sense, and Qing Lulu felt as if a set of control techniques had appeared out of nowhere in her mind. It was like a natural instinct, and she was able to control the corpse general puppet as if it was her own arm and finger. It was incomparably smooth, and she couldn't help but be greatly excited. She was so excited that her beautiful face flushed red, and she cheered excitedly. Lulu, take these two soul formation cultivators to the capital and protect the Zhang family and the righteous sects against the righteous alliance and their henchmen. Any force that dares to oppress the creatures on earth, bully the weak and take things by force will be killed without mercy. Jiang Tian said coldly. Alliance Master, I will do my best to fulfill my mission. Qing Lulu's mind surged, her blood surged, and she was excited to the point her face flushed red. She cupped her fists and knelt down on one knee, and she spoke with a solemn expression. Zhang Jinghua and the other disciples looked at each other and felt relieved. They felt gratified and smiled. With two soul formation cultivators, the Zhang family and the entire capital were safe. Ah, Jiang Tian was a broad-minded man after all. He didn't mind the betrayal of the Zhang family. Jiang Tian nodded. Then, his eyes glittered and he said, Yilin, come with me. Go to the Langyi Academy in the Hengduan mountain range with me. Once you get the image left by Divine Lord Scorpio, broadcast it to the world and reveal the truth. From that moment on, I'll declare war on the so-called Righteous Alliance and kick them out of the solar system. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Chapter 17:16. Yes. Zhang Yilin also nodded. I'm leaving. Take care of your defenses and be careful. Jiang Tian took one last look at Zhang Jinghua and the others, revealing a complicated expression. Then, he stepped on his sword and soared into the sky, taking the big black dog and Zhang Yilin with him. Under everyone's nostalgic and hopeful gazes, he turned into a shocking rainbow and tore through the sky without looking back, disappearing into the deep night in the blink of an eye. The wind was mighty, and the spiritual energy was like mist turning into rain. At this time, the land of Huaxia was incomparably vast, and the mountains and rivers were magnificent. The sky was filled with all kinds of vitality energy, and the laws were as solid and heavy as steel plates. Flying high in the sky and looking down, one could see mountains and steep ridges, layers upon layers of green, and ancient forests. On the ground, giant spirit veins were entrenched like dragons, full of a barbaric aura. However, in the critical 5 years of the recovery of spiritual energy, Huaxia had indeed exerted the system's advantage of concentrating power to do big things to the extreme, achieving overtaking and leaping in power. The majestic cities were as large as mountains. They were protected by formations and restrictions, and the lights were resplendent. The cultivators were as numerous as ants. At this time, due to the great changes in the terrain, the area of Huaxia was already 10 times or even dozens of times larger than before. From the capital to the Hengduan Mountains, it also expanded. Along the way, the more Jiang Tian saw, the more serious his expression became. Some secret realms had already been revealed, such as Yin Ruins, White Deer Academy, Wangjue Temple, Mount Mang, and so on. They all turned into giant cities with a radius of 100 miles and floated in the air, like immortal palaces and divine palaces, emitting powerful vitality and law fluctuations. But what made Jiang Tian angry was, most of these secret realms had already been occupied by the Big Dipper puppets. They acted tyrannically and used their power to oppress others without any restraint. They killed people as if they were cutting grass. If anyone resisted, they would immediately be turned into ashes. They were like a country within a country, completely ignoring the rules that the Mythology Alliance had set back then. Cultivators fought for mortals. The strong protected the weak. It had long been replaced by the law of the jungle. The strong were respected, and the weak were ants. Strength was everything. At this time, the land seemed to be prosperous and rich in spiritual energy, but in fact, the order inside had collapsed and danger lurked everywhere. It was impossible for a powerful cultivation civilization to form. Each and every one of Huaxia's hidden sect's secret realms and cultivation holy lands had already been directly or indirectly controlled by the Big Dipper cultivators, transforming them into living purgatories. Most of the time, Jiang Tian was just hurrying along. He didn't care about what he saw. Right now, there were too many imbalances in the world. Only by changing the fundamental concepts and rules could the world be changed. Even with Jiang Tian's ability, he would probably be exhausted to death if he had to deal with them one by one. But sometimes, when encountering something too infuriating, Jiang Tian would just casually slap down and turn those evil people into ashes. Then, the victims would hurriedly kowtow to the golden light in the sky, praying for the blessings of the gods. Boom! Jiang Tian's golden rainbow piercing the sun. Not only was Jiang Tian by himself, but he was also carrying Zhang Yilin and the big black dog. The key was that the laws of Earth had been strengthened at this time, and his speed was less than 1/10 of the speed in the ruins of immortality. In order to maintain the fastest speed, Jiang Tian's nascent soul roared. The blood on his body boiled, turning into clouds of laws. Rich energy seeped out of his body, fusing with his escape technique, leaving a 1-mile-long golden light in the air. The golden light was more than a mile long, and the tail flame stretched for 7 or 8 miles, as if it could split the world. Any cultivator who was hurrying along hurriedly avoided it. All of them were shocked. Which divine lord was rushing down to the mortal world with such terrifying power and speed? But Jiang Tian didn't care about that. In order to rush to Langyi Academy, he almost pushed his speed to the limit. The puppets of the freezing North sect began to search for Dharma artifacts in all the hidden sect's secret realms that had been occupied by the monster clan. There were probably cultivators of Huaxia dying for this at all times. Jiang Tian had to find the Dharma artifacts and announce it directly. He had to end the cruel rule of the Big Dipper cultivators. Faster! Jiang Tian shouted. In the end, Jiang Tian used the speed of the Kunpeng and turned into a Kunpeng that stretched 3,000 miles. It tore the dimension and split the sky open, rushing forward at a terrifying speed. At such a speed, an hour later, the silhouette of an enormous mountain range covered in ice and snow and shrouded in clouds was finally revealed. It was 1,000,000 meters tall and stretched endlessly like a jade dragon in the clouds. They had arrived at the Hengduan mountain range. If anyone knew how long it took Jiang Tian to get there, they would be terrified. The Dharma laws on Earth had been strengthened, and the space-breaking Dharma laws of nascent soul and soul formation were almost impossible to use. Even the divine lord of the Beidou sect would need at least a day to travel from the north to the south of Huaxia. After arriving at the Hengduan mountain range, Jiang Tian communicated with Zhang Yilin with his immortal will. After she used the most advanced positioning system, the golden light turned and flew to the southwest. That was where Langyi Academy was located. A layer of light formed a small world with a radius of dozens of miles. Langyi Academy was originally built beautifully with the remnants of ancient formations. It was rich in spiritual energy and flourished in cultivation. It was truly a paradise. But at the moment, it had become a living hell. The thousands of disciples of Langyi Academy were all imprisoned and tortured. Whoosh! The cold wind was biting and ice crystals were flying. The cultivators of the academy were all skinny and dressed in ragged clothes. They were chained by ice chains and their bodies were frozen. Men and women, old and young, they were all carrying hundreds of kilograms of ice crystals and staggered toward a crystal carrier under the command of the supervisor. The original palace of the academy had been destroyed in the battle and dozens of fortresses were built. Each of them was heavily guarded by golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators. There was even a divine prince half a step away from the soul formation stage. Those people were the reason why Langi Academy was destroyed and suppressed and didn't dare to resist. Pa! Someone was slow. The ferocious-looking overseer, who was standing to the side, waved the lightning whip in his hand and lashed it heavily at the woman's body. Blood splashed everywhere. Half of the woman's body was mangled and her bones were broken. She flew into the air and fell to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Cultivators on Earth are just ants. How dare you play tricks? Do you want to die? The supervisor was still angry. He waved the whip again. Sister. 10 meters away, a skinny young man with a pale face and frostbite all over his body threw away the ice crystals in his hand and jumped forward, trying to take the beating for his sister. Ha! Aren't you afraid of pain? I'll cut you. Let's see if you can feel pain. A vicious smile appeared on the supervisor's face. He formed a knife with his chi and slashed. He was a nascent soul cultivator and was much more powerful than the young man. Besides, the young man was shackled and couldn't resist at all. He was immediately split in half and blood stained the ground. Chao Yi, you're also a human on Earth, a descendant of the Yan Huang country. Why are you helping the Beidou cultivators and killing your own people? Are you still human? On a stone pillar that had many runes carved on it and was constantly being burned by lightning and fire, a skinny and unkempt youth gnashed his teeth and roared angrily. Under his slender eyebrows, his eyes had been gouged out, leaving only 2 bloody holes. At this moment, tears of blood rolled out from his eyes. His body, including his shoulder blades, had several bloody holes pierced through by the chains of law. They were fixed to the stone pillars, and as he struggled, rotten and stinking blood came out from these bloody holes. Dugu Shao, don't try to get close to me. I'm different from you. You're just ants and I've been accepted as a disciple of the Arctic sect. I'm just a peripheral member of the Arctic sect. In the future, I might even be able to follow the freezing North sect to the heavens and go to the beautiful and prosperous Kaiyang galaxy. Chao Yi said with disdain, hurry up and give me the Dharma artifact. Otherwise, I'll beat you again. Then. He brandished his long lightning whip and lashed it with crackling sounds. The few disciples of the academy around him were all whipped to the point where their flesh was split open and they were sent flying in all directions. All the disciples of the academy looked at Chao Yi with eyes that almost split apart, and they almost went mad with hatred. They clenched their fists to the point cracking sounds resounded, and they stared fixedly at the fiendish Chao Yi. In other words, they were staring at the Beihan sect, the Kaiyang planet region and the Beidou cultivators behind them with hatred. Why do you bully us like this? We're just hermits who want to stay away from the world and live in peace. Why is it that while you claim to be the alliance of justice and order and the saviors of Earth, behind the scenes, you resort to trickery and murder? Why do you keep bullying us when we've never fought back? Anger surged in the hearts of the disciples of Langi Academy. It was almost boiling and almost turned into flames. 3 months ago, the divine prince who was half a step away from the soul formation level suddenly killed Master Qing Mu and captured everyone. Since then, the disciples of the college had been rioting almost every day. But that only led to crazier suppression and killing. There were golden core perfected cultivators, dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords and a quasi-divine lord. The most powerful one among them was only a golden core cultivator, Dugu Shao. How could he be a match for them? They could only be bullied and stepped on like ants. But they were unwilling. They wanted the outside world to know the cruel truth of the Beidou cultivators. They didn't want to be slaves. They would rather die in battle than be slaves. Look at the look in your eyes. You don't seem to be convinced. But I like to see you guys looking at me with displeasure, yet unable to do anything about it. Chao Yi Jiao smiled arrogantly. Suddenly, he stomped on the woman and turned her into a pile of minced meat. Bastard! You're not worthy of being a human. At this moment, many cultivators of the Langi Academy couldn't stand it anymore. One by one, the cultivators raised the boulders in their hands and threw them at Chao Yi. They activated their remaining true essence and charged at Chao Yi, disregarding their own safety and disregarding life and death. Right, right, right. I like to see you resist. Otherwise, my killing won't be fun at all. My days as a supervisor are too boring. How can I live without some fun? Ha! Chao Yi let out a wild laugh as he lashed out with his whip, turning several Langya disciples into ashes. Chao Yi, you've been so unscrupulous. You've defected to the enemy, committed treason, and killed people like flies. One day, the Alliance Master of the Earth's Myths Alliance will come back and punish you. I'll kill you and the Outer Realm cultivators behind you. Leave no one alive. Dugu Shao raised his head and roared, tears of blood flowing out from his eyes that looked like rotten flesh. The innocent smile from more than 10 years ago was no longer there. It was cold and resolute, and there was only deep hatred, unwillingness, and anger. Ha, are you talking about Kang Teichu? He died an unjust death. I don't know if he died in the universe or was killed by the mighty figures of the ruins of immortality. If he comes back alive, I can squash him to death with one hand. The supervisor was laughing maniacally. Suddenly. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled violently. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed as if a great earthquake had erupted. What's going on? Could it be that a meteorite came and destroyed the small world? All the cultivators looked up in horror. Jiang Tian had arrived. Chapter 1717. Oh no! Someone's attacking the secret realm. A nascent soul commander said solemnly. Ahem! Who dares to attack the Langya secret realm? Aren't they afraid that the Beihan sect will kill them? Besides, even if he's a soul formation cultivator, he might not be able to break it easily. Many nascent soul heavenly lords flew out of the fortresses and looked up at the sky with astonishment. As for Chao Yi, he revealed a proud smile. He felt that the person outside was like an ant trying to shake a tree, like an egg striking a stone. The array of the secret realm had been strengthened by the Beihan sect and was 100 times stronger than the Dharma array of the ancient mountain. However, to everyone's surprise, the strength of the person who was attacking them was too shocking and terrifying. Another loud rumble was heard. A deep dent appeared in the clear and slightly bright barrier. Shocking cracks appeared on it. With the point of impact as the center, the cracks extended for dozens of miles and covered half of the sky. The cracks had yet to recover and dissipate. Whoosh! It was as if a peerless heavenly blade had slashed down. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Amidst the explosion of golden light, a huge crack that was more than a mile wide and 10 miles long was directly split open in the tight boundary. Then, a golden rainbow that pierced through the heavens and earth rushed into this world. What? Everyone exclaimed. They couldn't believe it. This barrier, which was strong enough to stop soul formation grand cultivators, was broken in no time. Who is it? Everyone raised their heads to look over, and their pupils constricted abruptly while their expressions became heavy as if they were facing a great enemy. Chao Yi was even terrified to the point his countenance was pale as a sheet, and he couldn't even stand steadily. A black-haired, black-eyed man in black clothes stood within the golden ray of light. His appearance was handsome like a god, his skin was crystalline like jade, and it emanated a dazzling and gentle glow of treasures and divine radiance, causing him to seem extremely miraculous. Next to the man stood a beautiful woman dressed like an office worker from the secular world. Around her was a 100-meter-long purple-gold true dragon with dense scales. It was majestic, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Sect Master Taichu. Sect Master Taichu is back. He's here to save us. Sect Master Taichu, you have to avenge the disciples of the Langya Academy. Some disciples of the Langya Academy who recognized Jiang Tian yelled with joy. Then, all the disciples in the secret realm of the academy cried and knelt on the ground, kowtowing to Jiang Tian. Even more people were roaring madly. They had endured for too long. Finally, it was time for Jiang Tian to make a domineering return. Brother Chu, no, Sect Master, Have you reached the soul formation level? That's great. Dugu Shao couldn't see Jiang Tian and his immortal will was also disabled. He listened to Jiang Tian's voice and smiled. He was not sure whether Jiang Tian had reached the soul formation stage or not, but since he was able to break through the Beihan sect's barrier, he had to be able to do it. Soul formation? What kind of trash is that? I'll kill them all. Jiang Tianzong laughed and flew to Dugu Shao's side as if there was no one around. Kang Te-chu, you're no longer the sect master of the Myth Alliance. This place belongs to the Beihan sect and it's a rented area. The Beihan sect has the highest authority and no one is allowed to enter without the permission of the Beta sect. A nascent soul heavenly lord shouted. Kang Te-chu, you should have been sentenced to death for breaking the barrier. Since it's your first time back on Earth, we'll let you off the hook since you didn't know anything. Leave now. Another nascent soul heavenly lord tried to persuade him. If you don't leave and continue to disturb us, we'll have to kill you. Another nascent soul heavenly lord threatened. They didn't know Jiang Tian's level. Normally, one had to be at the soul formation level to break the barrier. If Jiang Tian was really at the soul formation level, they would be afraid. They were just a bunch of nascent soul cultivators and golden core cultivators. Even the divine prince who was half a step away from the soul formation level wouldn't be able to defeat Jiang Tian. But when Jiang Tian left Earth, he was only at the core formation level. How could he have broken through the nascent soul level and the soul formation level in 4 years? That was unbelievable. So, they believed that Jiang Tian had used some kind of secret treasure to break the barrier. Jiang Tian didn't care about their provocation. He waved his hand and cut off the chains that bound him. Dugu Shao fell down, he only felt a warm sensation under his ribs, he was held up by a big hand, Jiang Tian's deep and warm voice sounded in his ears, Shao, open your mouth. Dugu Shao swallowed a butian pill made by Jiang Tian. Then, Jiang Tian used the spirit creation art to heal Dugu Shao's damaged dantian and eyes. It was difficult to heal a damaged dantian, but with the help of the butian pill and the spirit creation art, it was only a matter of time. His eyes were just ordinary organs and did not have any magical powers. After a few flicks of his fingers, they were regenerated. However, the scene before his eyes gradually became clear. When he saw Jiang Tian's face, Dugu Shao's tears rolled down his cheeks. He said agitatedly, Alliance Chief, you haven't changed at all compared to the year when you fought against the East Sea Cherry Blossom Festival. It's been 8 years. Shao, you've become more handsome and mature. Jiang Tian sighed when he saw an old friend, but it wasn't the time to chat. He immediately said, Shao, have a good rest. Watch me kill all these bastards. Hearing that, the murderous intent in Jiang Tian's eyes shook the air. All the puppet cultivators of the Beihan sect were startled. At this moment, Jiang Tian was furious. Dugu Shao was Jiang Tian's friend, but he had been humiliated like this. His dantian was destroyed, his cultivation was destroyed, his eyes were gouged out, and he had to endure months of inhumane torture. Half of the 3,000 disciples of the Langyi Academy had died. Along the way, Jiang Tian saw that under the suppression of the Big Dipper's lackeys, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of Mystic Realm cultivators had died. Even if he killed all the henchmen of the Beihan sect, he wouldn't be able to wash away the blood debt. He also had to settle the score with the Beihan sect and all the cultivators from other planets. He cast a protective spell and put Zhang Yilin and Dugu Shao inside. Boom! Jiang Tian stomped on the ground and soared into the air, attacking directly. Jiang Tian attacked in anger. How terrifying was his strength! Along with Jiang Tian's palm slapping down, an enormous golden palm with a radius of 500 kilometers slammed down with a bang. That enormous palm seemed as if it was cast from gold, and the lines on the palm and fingerprints were clearly visible. It was extremely condensed and real, and the surroundings were filled with chaotic energy while the laws surged, and multicolored light and auspicious colors suffused the air. Before the giant hand arrived, the violent pressure came first. Down below, Mountains that were thousands of meters high collapsed one after another as if they were made of paper. Towering trees that were hundreds of meters high were blown away like withered grass. None of the cultivators escaped. Even the top nascent soul cultivators fell like rain under the violent pressure. They lay on the ground like toads and couldn't get up even if they wanted to. Bang, bang, bang. One by one, the nascent soul cultivators and golden core cultivators exploded. Blood mist filled the air and the sky and earth were dyed red. Only when they were all dead did this giant palm strike down, shockingly blasting open an enormous crater in the ground, just like a whipped corpse. At that moment, the entire secret realm trembled as if an earthquake had just occurred. At this moment, all the remaining puppets of the Beihan sect kept quiet out of fear. Too terrifying. Killing a nascent soul stage cultivator is as easy as chopping grass. 9 nascent soul heavenly lords and nearly 100 golden core realm cultivators. He really is a divine sovereign. The sound of people sucking in cold air rose and fell. Everyone was retreating like dogs that had lost their homes as they fled in panic, and they were terrified to the point their souls almost left their bodies. They were indeed unable to see through Jiang Tian's cultivation, but that was no longer important. The fact that Jiang Tian had killed a few nascent soul heavenly lords and almost 100 golden core cultivators proved that he was as powerful as a soul formation cultivator and qualified to be called a divine lord. Trying to escape. Do you think you're faster than me? Jiang Tian's laughter was filled with disdain. The Kunpeng quickly broke through the space. Sometimes it was like a fleeting shadow, sometimes it was like a bolt of lightning. Although it was launched later, it arrived first and continuously slapped down. Bang, bang, bang. There seemed to be many giant fireworks in the sky, which were extremely beautiful and breathtaking. Dozens of golden core cultivators and a few nascent soul cultivators died every time Jiang Tian slapped down. Their golden cores and nascent souls would uncontrollably explode and let out colorful lights. If one didn't consider the terrifying power of the explosions, the beautiful scene would be far more beautiful than any fireworks show. Kang Te Chu, this secret land has been rented by the Beihan sect and has been authorized by the Earth's mythical alliance. You killed so many people in the Beihan sect's territory. The Beihan sect won't let you go. Some puppets of the Beihan sect were more courageous. They threatened while running away. Sect Master Taichu, I surrender. Spare my life, I am willing to follow you and serve you faithfully. I am willing to be at your beck and call, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will not hesitate. I'll be loyal to you for the rest of my life. Chao Yi was so frightened that he peed his pants. He ran away crazily and begged for mercy. Tears and snot rolled down his face. He was so scared that he almost lost his mind. He had never thought that Kang Te Chu would come back alive. After all, according to the cultivators of the Beta sect, Jiang Tian had died in the ruins of deity. Besides, he had never thought that Jiang Tian would become so powerful. Ha! Didn't you say that you're going to kill me with one slap? Now I'm here. Do it. Jiang Tian smiled coldly. His body swayed, and he transformed into the gung metal immortal body. He was more than 1,000 feet tall, and he stood tall in the sky. He waved his hand, and grabbed Chao Yi in his hand. Sect Master Taichu, please spare my life. At this moment, Chao Yi was like a fly in the hand of a human in the enormous palm, and he seemed extremely tiny and weak. No matter how he struggled, he was unable to break free in the slightest. He wailed and begged for mercy in despair, and he seemed extremely pitiful. Poof! Jiang Tian squeezed gently and Chao Yi exploded like a rotten tomato. Before he died, his face was still full of shock and unwillingness. He couldn't believe that he would die just like that after becoming a nascent soul cultivator for less than a year and acting like a tyrant. Kill! The purple true dragon roared and rushed out. It opened its mouth and swallowed crazily. The purple true dragon was already a nascent soul cultivator and had the bloodline of a pure divine beast. It was so powerful that it could completely suppress normal soul formation cultivators. However, it had always been cowardly and never dared to take risks. It liked to bully golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators. It was a surefire way to defeat them. Kill, kill, kill. Many cultivators of the Langia sect also picked up giant stones, shovels, steel ropes and iron chains and pounced on those ferocious lackeys of the Beta sect. Those supervisors and jailers had committed a lot of crimes and it was time to settle the score. The disciples of the Langia Academy might not be as powerful, but they had more people and Jiang Tian and the Purple True Dragon were leading and supporting them. The situation immediately took a turn for the worse. Be careful, Sect Master Taichu. There's a divine prince of the Beihan sect here. He's a half-soul formation cultivator and he hasn't left yet. Suddenly, Dugu Xiao reminded him.